I do, doop-a-dup, I do. Yeah. Hello. Hello, everyone. Welcome. I was editing the family video about 45 minutes ago, and then I had a bologna sandwich. Then I took a grumpy 1.5-year-old for a walk, and now I'm here with you. This is today's Patreon Hangout. I just realized I haven't checked sound and noise. Hopefully you guys can hear me okay. Hello to my new favorite YouTube channel. Hello, Knight. How are you doing? I hope everyone's doing well. I did the thing that I've been saying I was not going to do with the podcast on Monday, and that was, I was just so frustrated trying to get the family script done that I was like, I can't do anything until the family script is done. That's my stress face. And then I got the family script done, and it's recorded, and we got about most of the summary edited today. It's long. It's over 20 minutes long, so it's going to be a big video. There is a lot to unpack about family. Hi, Lauren. Hello. Russell, Jen, Beach Girl. Hello, everyone. Anyway, I hope you're holding up. You know, it's just one of those things like my sister and I usually get together for dinner once a week, or go to a movie on the weekends, and we haven't been able to do that. So the other day we fired up Skype and mutually hit the play button on Queer Eye for the... Well, it's just Queer Eye now. It's not Queer Eye for the Straight Guy. And, God, that show is such a net good for society. It's so positive and not cynical and commercial and all of that. And she and I watched that on stream, and it felt like normal, which is a feeling that is a rare commodity at the moment. And hopefully... that's why I feel like keeping these Google Hangouts going and trying not to skip stuff and just keep it regular. So, Beach Girl, the super chat did work, and I saw it after I had already closed the stream. So let me boop.
The dance of capitalist superiority.
And cheers. Thank you for reminding me. My anxiety is up, and I'm over-caffeinated, so let's have more Red Bull, Ian. Anyway, let's talk about Buffy, or Angel. That's what we're all here for. Today we're talking about I've Got You Under My Skin and The Prodigal, which we chose to do because we wanted to keep the Faith two-parter connected in the next one. Oh, okay. Yeah, good to know, Beach Girl. My mic is not showing in Patreon. Do you have it all blocked, or is it my equipment? I'm muted and hidden in the meeting, Russell, but I can't mute or block you. I need you guys to do it. So if you're experiencing sound issues, it's on your side. Okay. How's my mic level? Is that okay? Is it too loud? Is it not loud enough? House's ringtone for his team is Mbop. And now I have Mbop playing in my head continuously. So I will try not to sing that to you. Unless you want me to. All right, let's watch I've Got You Under My Skin. I'm regularly surprised by how often writing a video script alters my feelings about a particular episode. At first glance, I've Got You Under My Skin might seem like a relatively conventional Exorcist knockoff, a bit clunky and rote. But borrowing a page from Buffy's first season, the episode uses its trope to reveal something a little more interesting.
I get visions. We do things a certain way.
Angel and company are hanging out in his basement. This is a fun little scene as they snipe at each other, and Angel smiles affectionately, attempting to keep the peace.
Cordelia, Doyle.
Ooh, I love that. The acknowledgement that Wesley is still new and there are some painful memories not quite behind everyone. What a great little scene. Across town, a family is putting their kids to bed with unusual practices, depending on how you feel about kids, I guess. But I wondered if the writer of this one might not be a frustrated parent looking for some wish fulfillment. Cordy therapizes Angel in another scene I really enjoy. Mid-session, Cordy has a vision of children somewhere and their father. At the house, Angel rescues the child from being run over. The kid's parents run out and seem strangely high anxiety about the whole thing, and then Angel uses the word scamp.
Scamp, isn't he?
And is invited in for a patch job. So, because of the wife's exuberance at Angel's presence and the husband's unflinching stare and desire to get Angel out, the writing is clearly setting it up to make it look like the dad is abusive or all demony, which then just turns out not to be. And he smokes. I forgot to mention that in the review. One of the telltale signs of evil guys in the Buffyverse are they're smoking. True. Kind of a strange red herring that didn't really add anything for me. The mom does seem a bit at the end of her tether as, upon finding out Angel's name...
Angel.
Honey.
Angel.
See?
Angels. Something's wrong in that house.
I'll say. Wesley walks the grounds and discovers a residue which suggests that someone in the house is possessed by a demon. What is the residue?
It's the bodily excretion of an ethros demon.
No one could have said demon poo before I touched it.
Is there any way I can get off my fingers quickly without betraying my cool exterior?
The team decides that an exorcism is in order, and Angel sets out to dinner with a dish the demon will find particularly repellent. At the table, the demon is revealed in an effect I find both a little disturbing and a little hilarious. After Angel feeds him the demon brownie, the parents' attitudes pivot. Mom now wants Angel to leave, Dad wants the help. Back in Angel's bedroom, they set up the exorcism, but need to get items. Angel and Wesley head to the church, and Angel appears nervous. The nun recognizes Angel for what he is. This is one of the few episodes where they really dally with religious mythology, and I kind of like it. This scene is very Constantine or supernatural, and even though it's not a direction the writers took the lore, it's fun to watch them toy with. Angel inadvertently strikes at Wesley's confidence.
Wesley, you don't even have sales resistance. How many Thigh Masters do you own?
That's an oddly mean and specific way to cut a guy down, but maybe it isn't so inadvertent. Angel clearly likes Wesley, but most of his experience with him so far has been with his inept management of Buffy and his capturing Faith just before Angel might have been able to get through to her. The demon boy taunts the mother across the line. Well, what did you think was going to happen? The horror of the sequence is severely undermined when they telegraph it for 15 minutes.
Would you help me?
I'm here, baby.
Angel and Wesley return, and as Angel seeks a mythical item to capture the demon, Wesley performs the initial rites of the ritual. The demon reaches into his mind to defend itself.
All those hours locked up under the stairs and you still want good enough. Not good enough for Daddy. Not good enough for the council.
The mention of Wesley's father causes him to lose his place. Angel performs the rest of the ceremony, and Cordy's discount ethros box breaks in half. Angel tracks the demon in corporeal form, who reveals a nice twist in the episode.
You didn't get that boy's soul.
What soul?
This is really a nicely delivered little twist. The boy is devoid of soul, and because of that, actually terrifies a demon. Unlike the bit of misdirection with the father, I really enjoyed this one, and it made the kid uber terrifying. The rest of the episode is a little rote. Ryan turns into the good son.
If I let you go, you think you could fly?
Sets the house on fire, Angel rescues everyone, the end. At first glance, this might seem like a relatively pedestrian Exorcist episode, but it's actually executed with some very Buffy-style subversiveness, which raises some fun questions about our protagonist and his new hire. This is the greatest bit of character development that Wesley has received in his Buffyverse tenure, and his interactions with the demon are the best parts of the episode. As I mentioned in Parting Gifts, the fear the demons have of Wesley suggests that he is more than just a capable foe, and in expecting, Angel demonstrates a surprising amount of confidence in Wesley's abilities as he takes him along to fight the baby demon in the opening and sends Wesley in against the giant demon daddy. Wesley's issues, then, are not a lack of training, but a total deficit of self-confidence, even in the face of any of his successes. He's slapstick dopey at times, yes, something I've said kind of sells his character short and starts to dissipate as the show goes on. But really, his crisis is completely internal.
I'm a fraud. The council was right to sack me.
And in this episode, as the demon pokes at his vulnerabilities through a psychic scan, we start to get a sense of what has happened to him. I also love how the demon attempts to dismantle the team by calling out Wesley's plan to put Angel down. Angel's reaction turns the reveal into a cute little moment of bonding between them.
I know you're not planning to kill me, Wesley. But you're willing to. And that's good.
As Agent M83 on Twitter phrased it, Angel's real friends are the ones willing to take him down. Interesting that when the demon's manipulations finally work and Wesley acts out of impulse, he gets it in the throat? The episode is bookended by Angel having to process his guilt over Doyle's death. His calling Wesley Doyle is a heartbreaking little moment that also manages to cleverly play with each character's issues in one single swoop. Wesley is put in doubt of his contributions, Cordy is reminded of what might have been, and Angel's actual suffering is revealed. Obviously, Captain Guilt Complex would make everything his fault, and Cordy therapizing Angel is a nice dynamic that was set up in Somnambulist. Within the recovering alcoholic metaphor, Cordy has spent the past few episodes in the role of Angel's sponsor, and it makes sense that the Queen of
Tact is just not saying true stuff.
wouldn't stand for people who aren't speaking their feelings, especially not the people she loves and cares about. The episode likens Angel's struggle to keep the team together with Seth's to keep his family together in the face of horror and loss, and Angel is one step closer by the end to understanding that, though the reason he fights still seems in doubt, especially in the face of so much loss. Ryan the Soulless Possessed acts as an interesting prism into Angel's own guilt, though I'm not sure the episode offers us any conclusions. A vampire is human, soul expelled, inhabited by a demon. Ryan is an already soulless human, inhabited by a demon, and the episode suggests that it is Ryan's soulless human side that is more terrifying and responsible for his evil than the demon itself, which is probably a reflection of how Angel feels about himself.
I'm weak. I've never been anything else.
I wonder
It's not the demon in me
how
that needs
many
killing
times
Buffy.
I've
It's
used
the man.
amends when talking about the show. That episode is so important for Angel. It's easy to look at Angel's journey and say that he has nothing to be ashamed of because he was without Solus Angelus, but Angel cannot separate himself from the deeds of Angelus. He experienced them as though he himself did them, and making matters worse, the actions of the vampire are at least partially dictated by the impulses of the human, free from conscience. It doesn't really matter whether Angel's pursuit of redemption makes logical sense from the outside, so much as we understand it makes perfect emotional sense to Angel. Angel's reaching for redemption is his own emotional journey to give his life meaning, which is the case for many of the characters on Angel the series.
We all got something to atone for.
In that way, Angel's show might be more about the pursuit of living meaningfully than Buffy, even if Angel's plots occasionally have more thematic contradictions, when the writers sometimes put themselves into corners and grapple for ways out. It's definitely a first season episode. As I said, it feels very much like a borrowed blueprint from Buffy's first season, where a common horror trope is used to explore various facets of our characters' hearts. But the two shows have very different driving mechanisms behind them. The monster metaphors in Buffy's first seasons were all driven by the theme of growing up. Angels are mostly a way of exploring his pathology. You can see the writers trying to work out what drives him through parallel storytelling, and I think I like that. The path to adulthood is inescapable. Angels is a more nebulous path, and some exploration is necessary. But the seams are still there. The dialogue in this one is pretty clunky. Partially that works in aid of setting the dad up as the red herring, but even in the times where oddness fits the context, it still feels weird.
Scamp, isn't he? That was vulgar, but I believe I made my point.
The episode's attempt to subvert its horror trope also doesn't quite feel like a subversion so much as a last-minute twist. In my opinion, children are already terrifying enough and don't need to be used as horror devices, though maybe as a manifestation of parental anxiety they're kind of interesting. Still, I like this one. After the faceplant in She and Expecting, the focus shifts back to character development, which is the reason I love the Buffyverse as much as I do. And I've Got You Under My Skin is a nice step in the direction towards the ensemble masterpiece the show is at its pinnacle.
I don't know if I'm worth all this, Steve.
What you did all those years, it wasn't you. You didn't have a choice.
I know. But I did it.
I love that parallel between Bucky and Angel. That's one of my favorites. All right. Yeah, not much to add to that. Pretty clean. I think I've Got You Under My Skin is one of those ones I always forget about. Kind of, oh yeah, that episode. It's pretty good. But I do love the demon twist, if not the father twist. The dialogue just, they weren't quite nailing it at that point just yet. But yeah, I think one of the, early on, there were some people arguing that the underlying theme of Angel was undercut by the fact that Angel didn't have a soul, so he didn't have a choice, so his need for redemption is irrelevant. And I think the Bucky connection sort of emotionally makes that a little bit more accessible. By the way, I forgot, my internet is terrible right now, so the stream may drop. If the stream drops, I will try and get it back. But, you know, it kind of is what it is. Everyone's home right now. Everyone's watching Netflix. Everyone's doing it. So share and share alike, but just letting you know. And if the stream hangs up, go ahead and just refresh is the best I can suggest. Okay, let's watch The Prodigal. At the risk of irritating quite a number of people, The Prodigal is, to me, this is the first good Angel review. Somnambulist is all right, but this is where I started to... Angel was a challenge. Writing about the show was a challenge because there's not a lot of, you know, stuff. I've read tons of stuff about Buffy, but there just isn't that much about Angel. So it has taken me a while to find my confidence when talking about the show and kind of picking things apart. And I miss, in this one, the very obvious Oedipus references that I went back and talked about in the last episode guide, which was Darla. Turn my mic up a little bit so I'm a little more on par with that. Anyway, all right, let's watch this one. The first episode in Angel the series that might break into my top 20. Yes, I know. I Will Remember You and Hero are in season 1, and while I think both of those episodes have wonderful emotional scenes that might be some of the most memorable in the series, there are aspects to both, especially in regards to plot, that I find troublesome and difficult to ignore. But The Prodigal is intricate, musical, emotional, and feels like a complete thought from beginning to end.
I get visions. We do things a certain
It's 200 years ago, and Angelus is standing in a doorway attempting to lure a fair maiden into the shadows and pounce on her. Turns out it was just Liam with a blinding hangover. This actually got me. The reference to his future vampire self made through the medium of a hangover was such clever storytelling and made me wonder if I'm a future vampire. Liam's father kicks him into the sunlight and curses him for his layabout ways, and we cut immediately to Angel in a subway doing battle. Kate is now aware of Angel's world, but attempting mightily to compartmentalize and insulate herself from it.
It's about the demon from this.
Could you please not say that word? It makes me, I don't know, just uncomfortable.
Still, Kate is the fish out of water through which some nice lore building is done on the show. As she learns, so do we, and her ignorance justifies occasional bouts of exposition from other characters. There's a great little exchange between Angel and Kate as she momentarily lets her guard down and then verbally shoves him away. Darla and Saffron are taking in Liam for the first time and are obviously impressed. Wesley's research reveals that the demon Angel found is actually peaceful. Something must be up. Angel tails a witness played by Danny McBride's younger cousin Randy McBride, #Horny McBride, to the apartment of Kate's dad, where he drops off a strange package. Angel confronts him and has the door slammed in his face. In flashback, we see Liam leaving home to get out from under his father's thumb. Liam says goodbye to his younger sister, and he and his father square off one last time. And just when you think his father was at risk of becoming a little one-dimensional, he grabs Liam by the arm. His anger gives way to a look of fear and desperation at the thought of Liam leaving home, a look that actually shook me. Liam is turned by Darla in scenes we once saw in Becoming Part 1, and after the episode bothers to make Liam's father a more interesting character, Kate buys hers a beer, and he seems to offer some genuine admiration for Angel and his abilities.
It's not good to be alone, Katie.
This can only go well for these two. Wesley discovers the peaceful demon was on drugs. Turns out Kate's dad is unwittingly helping a demon crime lord move them. The demon orders Angel's death. Angelus awakens after Liam's funeral. Darla is waiting for him, and Angelus experiences his first kill. There is a notable moment where Angelus turns to Darla looking for approval, and then finishes the murder. His father is boarding up the windows, and Angelus surprises him. Their exchange is some gripping tragedy, and I can never help but picture his father's last desperate glance as Liam walked out the door.
I was never in your way, boy.
It reminded me a bit of...
Maybe we should. Damn it.
Angelus believes this to be his shining moment of victory. But in the following scene back in the present, Liam's choice to become a vampire with Darla means that Angel is unable to enter the apartment to save Kate's father, and he can only watch until his soul leaves his body. And then Kate discovers the scene. This is Angel paying for Liam's choice in the loss of Kate's father. Kate finds the address of the Mafia demons, and Angel helps her annihilate them, but the rift between Angel and Kate is now permanent. This is a complicated episode, and there exists plenty of opportunities for nitpicks, but I think on closer examination there are some wonderful things going on. The Prodigal is an engrossing tragedy, and tragedy is cyclical. One bad action leads to another, and then another. Liam left home and asked Darla to show him her world. The punishment for that action was the death of his entire family, and many years later having to watch Kate's father murdered in front of him while not being able to do anything about it. The cycle of tragedy doesn't care about the size of the action that created it. Or, as Angel puts it,
It's his choice. Yeah, I know all about it, Wesley, believe me, but sometimes the price we end up paying for one bad choice isn't commensurate with the offense.
I love that line. The Buffyverse doesn't often distill the horror and sadness of the vampire cycle so dramatically, and display it for us so unflinchingly. I was most reminded of the haunting gaze Drusilla and Spike gave Ford in Lie to Me, and Buffy grappling with the complexity of her new life as she waited for Ford to rise. After two duds and a meh, it's alright, the Prodigal feels so confidently well put together. I love the parallel structure of the story, mirroring Kate and Angel's relationships with their fathers. As we've said before, for some reason Angel flashback episodes just tend to be really great. But even beyond the story, the episode feels technically well executed. The music by Robert Krall and Christoph Beck is actually distinct between the two time periods. The themes for Liam's fall and the rise of Angelus are gothic, restrained, and horrifying, tragically inevitable. Where the notes for the modern-day sequences sound out the more conventional heroic motifs. Ignoring the tumultuous aspects of the season, there has been some internal dissonance to Angel's structure. The early parts of Season 1 were establishing a supernatural noir procedural, a framework inside of which Kate's tough-as-nails cop with baggage fit rather well. But episodes like I Will Remember You, Somnambulist, and The Prodigal hint at a more epic direction, and ultimately are the most accurate representations to this point of what Angel the show turns into. This episode feels like an effort to steer Kate's character more in that other direction. It kind of works, but pitting her against Angel going forward also puts her outside the ensemble, a position from which it can be difficult for the writers to develop their character, and often relegates those characters to throw in scenes meant to remind the audience they're still on the show. I love the episode's title and its reference to the prodigal son. The prodigal son is one of the parables of Jesus on loss and redemption. In the story, a father has two sons. The oldest son toils under his father's rule, uncelebrated. The youngest asks for his share of the family fortune, and upon receiving it, he moves to a distant country, living and spending with great extravagance. The word prodigal actually means wastefully extravagant. After he loses his fortune, he comes to his senses and returns to his father to beg to be his servant. You could say he finds his soul, and his father welcomes him home with open arms, saying when his eldest son objects, "Your brother was dead and is alive again." The show has been developing quite a storm of father issues. Wesley's were hinted at in the previous episode. Kate's father doesn't show love because it might be a sign of weakness. Liam's father can't see who Liam is through the fog of his own imposed expectations and the belief that Liam will never live up to them. People with the power in these sorts of relationships, whether unconsciously or deliberately, maintain control over their loved ones by withholding love and affection, keeping them desperate for it. Kate points out in Sense and Sensitivity that after her mom died, her father just withdrew, which allowed him the dual power of insulating himself from further pain, as well as keeping Kate pursuing him. Liam's inability to live up to his father's expectations produced a powerful lack of self-worth, the template for the demon that took him over. It follows then that Angelus would have a galvanized desire to conquer and destroy, to dominate as thoroughly and brutally as he could, in as clever a way as he could find. His first act with Darla, after all, is to destroy his entire village. But self-determination isn't actually measured by power over others, and Angel's relationship to Darla throughout the episode undermines the notion that becoming a vampire has elevated him beyond Liam's desires. In the graveyard scene, he gives Darla such a childlike look for approval as he kills his first human. Even as a monster, he will always be trying to fill the void left by his human template. And that grounds Angel's relationships to this point, with both Darla and Buffy. From the graveyard scene here all the way to Sunnydale 200 years later when Darla entraps Angel and tries to get him to go after Buffy, we see the power she lords over him because of Liam's original desperate desire for his father's validation. In Buffy's third season, once she'd broken up with Angel in Lover's Walk, and with the aid of some psychological torture from the first, Angel was again looking to escape his emotional traps and self-hatred.
Am I a thing worth saving, huh? Am I a righteous man?
Considering his pattern of relationships, then, leaving Sunnydale to come to LA might have been one of Angel's first genuine acts of self-determination. It wasn't an act of childhood rebellion as when Liam left home, or a decision made from his selfish desires. It was a decision made from Angel's integrity. And that decision proves Darla wrong.
Your victory over him took but moments.
Yes?
But his defeat of you will last lifetimes.
That was the perspective of the soulless, similar to the mayor's statement to Faith in this year's Girl that without him her days were numbered. If the soul is the moral compass, a being who lacks one cannot make a decision in opposition to their own self-interests, effectively meaning they lack free will. Ironically, I think the way out of all of this, the friar's message that never made it to Romeo, was what Angel's father said to him as he tried to prevent him from leaving early in the episode.
Out of my way.
I was never in your way, boy.
And it's what makes that line so crushing. As much as our parents are gods to us when we're young, as we get older, hopefully we discover their simple humanity, flaws and all. While perhaps we don't always get to choose who we love, the love given or denied us need not determine who we are. We do that through our choices and our ensuing actions. And if we cede our self-worth and dignity to someone who abuses them, it's on us to realize that that was still our choice. The idea is not to try and take that power and self-determination back for ourselves, but to realize that it was always ours to begin with. Or risk repeating that same pattern over and over and over again in future relationships. We can't control what the world does to us, but, as one of my favorites, Viktor Frankl, said, between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. And in our response lies our growth and our freedom. That one turned out okay. I have nothing to add to that. Let me switch over to the meeting. Just 1 second. So we want to push this button. Sorry, just a sec. There we are. Sorry, guys, just a moment. Okay. Bravissimo. That was a lot of feels. Thank you. And boop, boop. Hello. Oh, I have the tab muted. Of course I do. Hi, everybody. Can you hear me okay? And can I hear you? One of you unmute yourselves and say hi.
Hi.
Hi. Beautiful.
Hi.
We don't need two of me on screen in the meeting. Though I am lovely. Off. There we go. Hello, my friends. How is everyone enjoying their high anxiety, neurotic home sequester? Yeah. Okay, let's not.
So much fun.
Yeah. Let's. How about we not talk about that? We are talking about two Angel episodes. So last week we decided to pair up the Faith episode, two-parter. It's good to see everyone, by the way. We decided to pair up the Faith two-parter, and so today we're talking about I've Got You Under My Skin and the Prodigal. Let's start with I've Got You Under My Skin. I figure, so I'm going to try and get us out in 2 hours. If we go a little over, it is what it is, but, just... I don't know. Words, hard. Let's start with Sarah. Sarah, I've got you under my skin. Hello, hi, how are you?
Hi, good to see you too.
Good to see you.
Right. I had thoughts in my head, and then I watched the end of your review, and yeah.
Yeah, that one turned out okay.
Okay.
And I don't say that very much about my own stuff. That one's okay. So I've Got You Under My Skin. The Angel does The Exorcist,
right?
With Daddy Dearest Red Herring. Where does this one fall for you in the season 1 group? What do you like?
Yeah, I'm like you. This is one I sort of forget until I watch it. But there are pieces that I really like. I actually kind of like the Dad Herring at the beginning. What I don't like is how quickly they drop it, and all of a sudden he's like Mr. Nice Guy.
Yeah.
And also the cough is just a bit too much. Like the cough moment when he bites the brownie, that's just overkill.
Well, I didn't notice the cigarette. Cigarettes are textbook Buffyverse for evil, right?
But like, I'm okay with him being an ass who's not possessed. Like, I thought that's the line they should have gone with. Like, okay, he's not possessed, he's still not great.
Yeah.
It also kind of...
Spike does continue to smoke after he gets his soul, and in season 7 they even make the visual representation of him lighting up as him kind of getting his mojo back when in the Shadowman episode. So it's not exclusively pure evil, but it definitely, because of Angelus's coming back, is a visual icon.
Yeah, and it was the 90s, and we weren't always subtle.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I like the sort of misdirect, and I think if they'd kept him just being still kind of a jerk, even though he wasn't, but not like possessed or actually abusive, I think it kind of would have fed well into the whole Angel Dads episode.
Yeah, I was wondering that while watching this episode guide, if there was an intent to start a motif about fathers, because you get the I've Got You Under My Skin, Daddy Dearest stuff, and then it immediately leads into Kate and Angel's dad. But other than the fact that they're all dads, I don't really feel the connection, unless you see something I don't.
I think there could have been a connection if they kept it like, I mean, we know that Wes's father is abusive.
Yes.
But I think he's quite clear. Oh, I love Wes's arc. But I think the statement, that a father doesn't have to be evil to terrorize.
Yeah.
Like, also doesn't have to be abusive to have like a toxic dynamic.
Yeah, I was wondering if I was thinking about Mr. McClay, since I'm now editing the family video, and
he is clearly abusive.
Yeah, I looked up I wanted to be specific with the definition of gaslighting, and so looked it up, and it said this is a tactic of dictators cult leaders, abusers, yada yada yada. And I was like, oh, he's all of those. He has an entourage. He has all of that. But I am wondering is there a distinction between a dictator of a father and an abuser? I mean, is a strict household like what we take Wesley to have grown up in?
I mean, I think we all come to this with our own sort of baggage.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think it's kind of more a continuum, a spectrum than a hard line.
That's a fair answer.
I think they're, and especially like dads are humans too. Like, I think we understand better when we're adults ourselves that they didn't get a rule book.
Well, and the only good dad in the Buffyverse is probably Giles, right? In terms of representation. And even he has Fred's parents. Dad. Yes, awesome catch, Boris. Yeah. I mean, even Giles has problems letting her go in season 7 and letting her make her own decisions, which he didn't have a problem with up until that season. Which is a little odd, but anyway, we got off track. We're talking about,
and we see Angel sort of struggling. We see a lot of Angel struggling with Connor to try, and he wants to not be his father, but he doesn't know how to be a good father.
Yeah,
and I wish we could have explored that more and more subtly.
Wait, okay, there. I was going to say, you wanted more Connor? Is that what you're asking for?
No, I wanted better Connor. And personally, I liked when he was a baby and he was like trying to figure that out. But
the baby stuff is terrific. The baby stuff pre-Portal and the Holt stuff pre-Portal, I think is a lot of fun and really interesting.
And they could have gone somewhere great with that, even with the aging up. We'll get to we all know.
Yeah, we'll get there. That's gonna be those. That's gonna take us forever and a year to get through Angel season 4. Let alone me writing about it. But anyway, go on.
But so I appreciate. I really appreciate the Wes stuff. I really appreciate the way that they build Wes's arc with his daddy issues over the whole thing, and it's a bit like Xander's family issues.
Yeah,
only
they're
I feel like
subtle, but they're there.
Yeah, and in Wes's case, I think they actually pull it off well when they show us a version of him.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the thing that annoys me about Hell's Bells is that that's not the Xander's dad we've been building up.
Yeah. Well, I haven't thought about Hell's Bells in a while yet, but I see your point.
We'll get to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, like we do the way that they build Wes's issues up in the background and how it does inform his character the whole way through. And Angel, the series, I find, has serious consistency problems.
Yeah, well, definitely in the first season. I think like Buffy, there are more consistent seasons and less consistent seasons. Would you agree?
Yes. And I think some of the inconsistencies in season 1 are kind of different than the inconsistencies we get later when it's sort of, there are some like inconsistencies with the morality and
like season 1 hasn't found the voice quite yet. And once they have, then I would agree with you.
Yeah, I think the sweet spot for me is season 2.
So far, I agree. I think, but writing about the episodes always changes my. Who knows? Writing about season 4 may make me love season 4. I hope so.
And maybe you writing about season 5 will make me actually like it.
Oh, okay. Challenge accepted. I'll see you in 15 years when I get to season 5.
It's a date.
Was there anything else about I've got you under my skin? I've got you under my skin. I will remember you, and I only have eyes for you. All confused in my head because they all have too many words and they start with I.
Yeah,
but that's neither here nor there.
Well, I really appreciate the sort of I like Cordelia, the sort of like halting progress of her attempting to be more empathetic and learn tact.
She really has. I mean, when you talk about best arcs in the Buffyverse, I think she has to be on the list. With she will forever have an asterisk next
that
to
it goes off a cliff.
Yeah, because of season 4. But her arc into season 4 is so elegant. The way she kind of gradually picks up a lesson on a lesson on a lesson, and then season 4.
Although it annoys me that they keep having times when they just make her stupid for no reason.
Yeah, I think that starts to fall off in season 2, but it's still present in season 1.
Yeah,
I kind of put it on the same page as Wesley's slapstick pratfall kind of stuff.
I kind of find Wesley's pratfall stuff endearing, personally. Yeah. It's just kind of silly and fun, and I like all incarnations of Wesley, except that I think I don't. If I look at the relationship with Fred from outside his perspective, I have issues. But
yeah, I do too. Yeah, we'll get there.
But yeah, because he's kind of sexist.
Yeah.
He means well, and it's totally what he's absorbed. But I mean, maybe we'll save that for talking about the Prodigal.
Yeah, sounds good.
I'll let someone else talk now.
Well, let me go over to Boris. Boris, hello, sir.
There we go.
Welcome.
Hi. Yeah, so this episode, it's pretty solid.
Solid's a good word.
There's definitely some stuff to question, which I'll get into a little later, but yeah, like definitely the biggest takeaway for me is the Wesley stuff, where like we get like the first real hints of his backstory with his father and stuff, and like it's really well done. Because like it's subtle and it's effective in that like like that line read of him just being like what was it? Yeah, father doesn't have to be terrorized to possess terrorized children. He just has to, and they cut it off, and it's like he's zoned out for a second, and then like you read a lot with just that one line, and like Sarah compared to like Xander's backstory. I'm thinking more like it's more like Giles' backstory, because it's like this is how it should have been done, whereas it's more subtle and it's in the background more than like they just dump it all in the Dark Age and ruin it. So like,
Boris, may I interrupt you for 1 second?
Yeah.
I just saw someone in chat mention that they have not finished watching Angel yet, and I always forget to lead with these discussions are completely spoiled. This group specifically, I know, has watched all of 7 seasons of Buffy and 5 seasons of Angel, or is not going to watch all of Angel. So if you're in chat, just expect that we are not avoiding spoilers. So yeah, if someone who hasn't watched all of both shows comes into the Hangout itself, then we tend to go spoiler free, but that hasn't happened for a bit. Sorry, Boris, go on.
Yeah, so the Dark Age screwed things up, and like with Wesley, they're more like it's like you didn't even really need to have lineage per se, but like we got enough just from like the background details and like the first like 3 seasons or so of Angel to like kind of understand what his deal is without like going head first into it. Like it's there, and we like anytime it's mentioned, we're like, oh, I know what he's talking about.
You lost me. You're talking about Wes's backstory?
Well, yeah, because like I feel like the backstory is more smartly handled here, because they didn't just like dump it all like immediately after this. Like it's just kind of this background thing that like informs the character, and you can kind of fill in your own blanks without needing to like get like a bunch of exposition.
I think it's a great example of show don't tell, which is the go-to. And
it is with words, but like it's very subtle in how it's used.
Yeah. I mean, there's not a long story. It's just bits of information that Wes would definitely understand, and we understand in context, which is why I feel like it's show don't tell. And actually, now that you mention it, the Exorcist boy. Ralph Blair or whatever his name is.
All those
Exorcist.
out on the stairs.
Yeah, that scene reminds me of the empath demon, the way the empath demon interacts with Cordelia in Parting Gifts. That same it's that because it's that same style of character growth where pieces of them are sort of reflected in the environment around. It's really well done.
Yeah, like it nicely ties everything nicely. One thing that's worth mentioning, and it's backed up in some behind-the-scenes sources. When it comes to Angel, kind of shutting down Wesley, which, by the way, I finally the sales resistance joke finally kind of like clicked with me better, written out, because like I realized, oh, he's talking about he can't resist salesmen. I get it. A salesman.
That's the one thing about this episode. There is some clunk. I mean, that usually I think Mutant Enemy's a little funnier than that.
I think the joke works. I just didn't really like get what he meant by sales resistance at that point. But like reading it out, I'm like, oh, he can't resist salesmen with cowboy hats.
I mean, Thigh Masters are just kind of funny, a funny go-to joke in and of themselves because they're awesome. But it felt like a reach with a possessed child in the church. Whatever. Anyway, we don't need to get into nitpicking a joke.
Back to the Wesley thing. Apparently, like the intention it wasn't necessarily like necessarily doubt in Wesley as so much. Apparently, like because of what happened with like the writer said this, and like what happened with Doyle, like the thing what happened with Doyle kind of like messed Angel up. So he's like, I don't want to like throw people into this. That's a bad thing. And apparently, in the original script, the priest actually was a part of the plot, but then like. Joss or Manir was like, hey, why can't Wesley do it? And that's like, and that kind of formed that whole thing. So that worked out pretty nicely.
Always better to give roles to the main group.
Yeah, and it works with Angel kind of working through his issues and stuff. Which I'd forgotten to the moment where like the possessed person thing like actually uses like Doyle's voice, and I'm like, oh, that's pretty creepy. Like it's like, you know, fighting the good fight or something.
Yeah,
like
we fight the yeah. I can't. I almost did Irish. I'm not going to do that.
So yeah, all that's pretty good. I kind of questioned some of the logic of what the Ethos demon and the Ryan thing, because like if the idea is that the Ethos demon needs to get out, then why would he sabotage the spell for like the attempts to get him out? Like that kind of confuses me a little bit. Like, was Ryan taking over at that point, or like what was going on? Because it was a little confusing.
Well, the way I read it was the boy has the demon's abilities while the demon is in him, but the demon is still trapped.
Yeah, like that's kind of the best thing I can come up with, but it's a little confusing how it's like explained. It's like, because like if the demon, because like we do know like it is definitely the demon should be in the front or is using the powers because like he can read his mind. So like obviously the demon is doing stuff, but like it's unclear like who was doing what, and like I feel like that could have been better explained maybe.
Well, so far too, no one has mentioned, and I don't mean to steal Russell's thunder because I think he was planning on bringing this up. But exactly. The anomaly that the boy is in all of the Buffyverse, given how tantamount the soul is to the themes and the storytelling and how important it is, the fact that it's possible to spawn a child that has no soul or spawn a human that has no soul is huge news. Huge news. And it never comes up again. Spoiler.
Well, I have two possible theories to explain, like explanations possibly. The one is like it could just be like an anomaly as far as like, you know, there's usually usually an anomaly in most things. Like you could just have a child without a soul, or it's also possible that like when the demon says what soul, he's not actually like being literal. Like it's just saying like this guy's messed up. Like you don't want to be in there. So like. It could be that he has a soul, but he's just like a real psychopath. So that's a way out if you want to go there. But.
Yeah. Well, was there anything else you wanted to throw out? I want to give us plenty of time to talk about the Prodigal, which I think is going to
check my notes real quick. I I kind of like that Corey uses the knife as like a cooking thing, and it's kind of like Andrew does, and like season is like because Andrew puts the knives with like as a butcher knife in season 7. Is like I watched it.
Makes me realize there's strange parallels in character type between Andrew and Cordelia.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the father. The twist is a little clunky, but like I can kind of almost see what maybe the idea is that like he's being a jerk to try and stave off Angel or anyone from questioning him because like he knew about Ryan being messed up. That's established at the end of the episode. So like it's possible he's just trying to like turn people off so they won't question him. But then as soon as like Ryan gets his all face messed up and Angel's there, it's like he's like, okay, I need to deal with this. Let's do this now. So. And I guess also with the father, there is kind of a parallel with the families of like Angel or Liam and him, in that like we have like a father, a mother, and a sister and an older brother, and the older brother kills the younger sister, or tries to in this case. So that's kind of neat.
So yeah, you're talking about Angel and Angelus, younger brother, older brother. That could fit. Yeah.
Yeah, there's the family dynamics kind of have a parallel a little bit. So there's that. I also like the bit where Wesley's just like, well, it's like, okay, you do the ritual, Angel. He throws him the cross, and then he gets burned, and it's like, oh, he's being snarky now, like that.
Yeah, that scene in the church is pretty good. Yeah, I mean, a little bit of clunk aside.
And we have the whole thing where Wesley like is thinking about killing Angel if he needs to, and like that could maybe tie into Angel season 3, where he's like, it's a reason why he doesn't want to trust him with the big secret, or like the father will kill the son thing, because it's like, well, it could be evil, so that kind of ties into that a little bit.
I do love that a prerequisite to being one of Angel's friends is being willing to kill him. I think that, I'll kill you dead, says Cordelia, I think, in Somnambulist. Yeah. And I don't know if Fred has a line to that effect, but I do love that that's like a stamp that you need in order to get into Club Friend Angel.
Yeah, it's very cool. I guess that's it for the basic stuff. We might as well let others
if we have more time at the end, we can always toss the ball around a little bit more. Sir Jack, my friend, my lovely, how are you? You're muted, I see.
I pressed the wrong button again. Hi.
Hi. It's so good to see you back at these. I missed you with all my heart.
Thanks. It's good to be here. Thank you.
Well, we're talking. I've got you under my skin.
I love this episode so much. It's just I love it. I think for me it's a top tier episode, but it's kind of the only top tier episode in my tiers of its kind, because like us Buffyverse fans, well, I can't speak for everyone, but I think for the most part, we love the feelsy stuff, we love the philosophy, we love all the meaning and all that stuff. This doesn't really have any of that. There's like a sprinkle with the Wesley and his dad, kind of, but it's not really. But I just don't care, because I'm a huge horror fan, and for me, this is just a mini horror movie, and I love it.
Yeah, we were talking about that in the cast stream. You mentioned this, and I thought, with all the horror, they did Creature from the Black Lagoon in Buffy, but they didn't do The Exorcist.
Yeah, it's kind of in hindsight, it's like, oh, that maybe they probably should have. It's just surprising that they didn't.
Yeah, I'm very surprised that of all the tropes, that the Wolfman trope and everything, all the ones they touched on in Buffy season 1, they did not do that.
Right. Yeah. But as I mentioned yesterday, I think this sort of story fits better on Angel rather than Buffy, because Buffy, I feel like there's too many people, too many. I don't know. It just, this suits a smaller ensemble and just a more serious tone, I guess.
Well, Angel is depressing with laughs.
Yeah.
And Buffy is depressing played for laughs.
Yeah.
I mean, for lack of a better description.
Perfect.
Angel definitely plays things more straight. most of the time. And if this had been an Exorcist episode in the first season of Buffy, it would have been pretty goofy.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I think so too. So I just I'm glad that they did it on Angel, because I think it just, as I said, it just fits a more serious tone. I mean, there's still a couple of jokes because it is the Buffyverse, but that's okay.
Yeah.
And a lot of people would say it's a straight up rip-off of The Exorcist, and I would say you are right, and I don't care.
Well, are there other? I mean, that wasn't the first Possession story, was it? It might have been the William Peter Blatty version.
I don't know. Like, I think it was the first one that really sort of exploded and was such a huge part of the cultural zeitgeist. So,
are there other episodes that come to mind for you that fall in? I think that's a fascinating category. You're a horror fan.
Yeah.
This is a particularly horror-like episode where the creature from the Black Lagoon is not.
Right.
Are there any others that fall into they're just good because they're scary, or they kind of scratch that horror itch for you?
Are we talking specifically Angel or Buffy
Either.
as well? The first one that comes to mind is Killed by Death, but that's mostly an aesthetic thing, because
the Freddy Krueger.
Yeah, the Kinderstadt, he's just scary and creepy. Harsh.
So you like Killed by Death?
I like its overall vibe. I like that, again, it just feels like a horror.
Yeah.
And it has that sort of scary, like unnerving sort of vibe to it. Fear itself, kind of. Again, it's a little more jokey, but I enjoy the haunted house thing. I'm trying to think of an Angel episode.
Fear itself could almost be about horror movies. I mean, given that the twist is that the fear monster is just being blown out of proportion by them, that's a horror movie.
Yeah.
Walking out of the theater, the suffering that you endure in the horror movie is temporary, and you walk out at the end of it. So that's an interesting example.
There's that episode of Angel, is it in the Wings or something like that, where
that's the ballet one.
Yeah. That kind of has a horror movie vibe to me. Sort of when they're sort of like backstage or whatever, and they get stuck in like a little loop or whatever it is, and they can't find their way out. And
See, I don't know what it is about that episode, but whenever I think about that episode, I can just think about the scene. It's just that whole scene just dumb. I'm not gonna. It's a family show, so we don't need to go there. But
I know exactly what you mean.
That episode is just porn or something. I don't know. It's that episode is so dirty.
Yeah, but there's something about the feeling of them being sort of trapped there that sort of elicits a horror movie vibe for me. That was one of the things that drew me to Buffy in the first place, was the horror. Even though it's not, it's not scary by horror movie standards. Some parts are, I guess.
I love that. I love that perspective. It's very different than my own because I'm not a horror fan. So for me, I love the show in spite of most of those things, rather than because of.
Right.
You know, I think as you said, most of us have the "hurt me so good" Buffy perspective on the show and want to cry.
Yeah. It sort of caters to a lot of my tastes. Like, I love the feels-y stuff. I love the comedy. I know the melodrama. Like, it's all good to me.
Well, was there anything else you want to throw out about?
Just that, it's really good, and it is sort of, look, if you want to pick it apart and overanalyze it, there's some things that don't make sense. Like, does Ryan have a soul, or does he not have one? Was the demon being more figurative when he said he doesn't have a soul? There's lots of little things that if you think about it too much, it falls apart, but I just don't, because it's a good episode.
I think my feeling about it is not that it doesn't make sense. If you accept the soul bit at completely face value, it's exactly fascinating. And I want to understand more. I want more, as opposed to a concept that existed in one specific episode and then stopped.
Someone mentioned yesterday, I can't remember who, so forgive me, but they brought up the idea that like in the Buffyverse, Ryan could have lost his soul anyhow. Like it just anything could have happened.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. And
it's very easy to get rid of a soul in the Buffyverse.
Exactly. And the fact that like it's not explained it's okay, it's fine. Like it doesn't matter. It's
Sarah points out Buffy had hers sucked out as an example. So yeah, he could have tripped, fallen, skinned his knee, and his soul dripped out. I mean, for all we know, that's possible in the Buffyverse.
Yeah. Personally, I just interpreted it as just a figure of speech. You know, what soul? I didn't take it literally, but that's just me.
I just want it to be literal.
Yeah. Yeah, that's me done. Cheers.
All right, bud. I just realized I opened by calling Sarah instead of Sarah E, and I said I wouldn't do that. You both realized who I was talking about, so that's weird. But Sarah C?
Yeah, it's okay. I cede seniority. It's like you say Sarah with no qualifiers. I know who you're talking about.
All right. Well, I want to be better about that. But Sarah C, we're talking. What are we talking about? I almost said I only have eyes for you again. I'm stupid. Save me.
No, positive self-talk here. We're talking about I've Got You Under My Skin.
Okay.
I don't know if they're both music references. I know that one is. Honestly, what's funny is that on my first Angel watch, which what's bizarre is I can usually, by the way, I have y'all on my big monitor. No, you're good, Sarah. I have you on my big monitor, so I'm looking diagonally, but I'm looking at you, so because I don't have a camera. But my first Angel watch, I don't remember. In the sense that I usually remember when I watch a show that's very dear to me, I can be like, oh my God, I remember the first time I saw this scene. And I don't know if it was just a long time ago or what. But I skipped, without like a guide or anything, I skipped a bunch of the season 1 episodes because I knew it was a little bit dry. And this is one of the ones I skipped. So I never saw this on my first rewatch. Huh. I actually watched it for the first time like years later, like maybe last year or something, when I did like a full rewatch. And I dig it. Like, it's different. It's a flavor that we kind of never get again. And I dig it. It's cute. I personally, my personal, like feelings and bias or whatever. Like, I love Angel a lot, like the dude. I just feel like he's an old friend to me. I'm very endeared to him. And so I can't really put my finger on why. But little moments where we see him sort of reminded by others of his vampirism, like with the nun, evokes just such a particular feeling in me of this guy who he's got his friends, he's got his business, they know what he is, whatever, and then he bumps into people who are like, you're a demon. He's like, yeah. So yeah, Boris, he's my boy. Like, I love him so much, man. I love him so much.
I have to say that's the warmest endorsement of Angel I've ever heard. I've heard people say Angel's cool, people love the show, people love the cast around him. I've never heard someone talk about Angel as an old friend, and I love it. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Go on.
You're all good. He feels like one. I connect with him, and I just think he's such an interesting guy, and he just feels so real with everything he does and says. And, you know, season 1, so this is one of those episodes, kind of like Somnambulist, that we see is, the writers are figuring out what's the show about. And, by extension, they're figuring out who's Angel, right? And so, as Angel's figuring that out, we are too, because they're poking into his past. You see that a lot, directly or indirectly, obviously, and are like, okay, what would a man with this past, how would he feel about it? How would it inform his present? And so that's why Angel is so much a show about, creating yourself. And Angel himself is like a case study in making yourself. Like, this man who exists right now, this is why I love my boy, is that he made himself. That's not Liam. That's not Angelus. That's not Angelus with a soul. That is a unique product of choice after choice after choice.
Yes.
So it's just, this is obviously the beginning of that journey and him getting sired, and you have him screwing his mom, his Darla, and killing his dad. It's everything you've said is spot on. Oh, that's the wrong one. Wow. My mind just went Prodigal.
Oh, we were on Prodigal.
But same thing. Is
Yeah.
You still have whatever. It still applies because you have, like you said, him looking at a soulless human. However, we want to justify that with technicalities, but grappling with the idea of evil in a vessel that it shouldn't look like, or some incongruous vessel. Yeah, and so the way that he grapples with that is interesting. I think him trying to be it endears me so much when he's trying to be like chummy with the kids and just trying to talk to normal people, and he's obviously terrible at it. I mean, I know they obviously thought they were very funny when they wrote every line like the ingredient is chocolate. That's what makes them brown. Like, but it's real cute. Yeah, I like the use of the religious imagery stuff that we never get again. I like the horror flavor. I personally, we talked about this in the cast. I don't care for a horror in the traditional sense, just because I'm a very jumpy person, and I don't really feel the need to put myself into more.
I don't like jump scares, and I don't like being startled.
I hate them.
Yeah.
I'm already nervous all the time.
Me too.
I'm good. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
But it's cool. It fits. I think if they had gone further, I'm trying to find like a coherent thread here. If they had gone further with this sort of horror trope in Angel, I think it would have worked.
Yeah.
I think there's a different flavor to even this than with the way it's used in early Buffy, and I dig. I think if we're still gonna get stuck on the detail of the what soul, I think everything makes sense. I think the Buffy universe is vast and wild, and we know so little about it for how much we know. And it is well within the realm of possibilities that this boy, I don't know, like during pregnancy, something sucked. She sold the soul inadvertently. Who knows if he was born with it or not? Maybe he's born with it. Maybe it's Maybelline. We don't know. It's fine. What's interesting is that like that pause after that line that you're like, oh.
Two things come to mind. I think that. First of all, Angel and Buffy have episodes like this, but they're, as Jack highlighted, I think they're kind of not the par for the course. It's more lore, character-driven comedy with the underlying theme and so forth. What this episode really reminds me of is a Supernatural episode.
Yeah.
I think Supernatural is a little less character-driven and a little bit more like this episode about playing with horror tropes and playing with whatever. I know we're all over, and that is not a strike against Supernatural. I just think they have different approaches to the storytelling. Yeah, it very much reminds me of a season 1 Supernatural episode, Boris. But the other thing that what you were saying brought up for me was something I didn't mention in the guide, which is that the kid is scarier than evil. The kid's like a sort of nihilistic chaos. Say what you want about the tenets of Buffyverse evil, at least it's an ethos. But then you have the kid itself who is just sort of chaos without anything, and even the demon is afraid of him, which I thought was an interesting commentary.
The idea of what's the scariest thing in the world? Nothing.
Right.
There's nothing that this isn't. And if Angel is a show about saving souls, however metaphorically we want to talk about that, there's nothing there. Like, let's pretend we wanted to reform this kid. The implication is there's nothing in there. There's nothing to reform. And again, the episode itself doesn't preoccupy itself with the minutia of what this actually means. Is this just pure impulse, pure chaos? Why is his impulse to light fire to the house? But it's interesting, I think, because it's not explained, and it can also be frustrating. But I think there's some line that refers to something. It's like Groundhog Day's premise is interesting because they never preoccupy themselves with the why.
How it works.
Something like that. But it's kind of like that. It's like, in this wild big world, like that's weird and unusual and creepy as hell. Otherwise, I think it's I dig that it gives a little more depth to Wes. I don't want to linger on this because I'm not looking to be crucified and I have no beef with Wes. I just never connected with him. He just doesn't do a lot for me. I find he's fine. But so personally, I'm not just like, oh my god, like clinging to that. But I think it's nice. I think it's cool. And I think it's interesting that we have another case of evil as apparently truth telling, or the demon as revealing. No, I've seen later in the series. I've seen the whole series, Lauren. I never vibe with him. It just,
I think I dig on Wes not because I relate, other than daddy issues, of course, but I relate for because I enjoy the tragedy. There's the tragedy of it is so Shakespearean that it gets me. But I get what you're saying. Like, there are other characters. If someone asks me like best arc versus character that I relate to the most, those are two very different answers, one way or another. Well, was there anything else you wanted to throw out about the episode?
That's it. I mean, it's pretty with not, and this isn't a dig, but it's pretty much what you see is what you get.
Yeah,
that's
a good way to put it.
Yeah, cool.
Let me go over to Russell. Russell, sir, how are you?
Hey, Ian, I'm here. How are you?
I am. That pretty much answers that question. I am. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you.
So I've got you under my skin. You had some interesting things to say about the boy and things that you wanted to chat with about that I wasn't following. Can you let me know what were those thoughts?
Well, the whole soul thing, even in the Buffy Angel verse, I just don't think it's plausible for a human to have no soul.
Okay.
But there are several humans in that Buffy Angel verse that lack humanity.
Well, the mayor himself says that he
sold his soul.
Yeah, but you think...
But I don't think he was human either. I mean, he was like 100 years old before the Ascension.
Okay.
So, certainly the boy lacks humanity. I think of people like the red herring on Never Kill on a First Date, season 1 Buffy, that big muscular guy that becomes a vampire. There's not much difference between him and the vampire version of him because the guy was pretty much nuts. You have I'm bad with names. The pill guy from
Pills, Kralik.
Yes, Kralik.
I had the pills in order to get that. That was my Pavlovian way of getting his name. Sorry, go ahead.
You have the one brothers in season 2 Buffy. The
Gorch brothers.
Gorch brothers, yes.
Yeah.
Who were evil before. I mean, they had souls, but they just lacked humanity. And I think that's the same with this boy here. Anyway.
Well, I think my take that I've always presented is that having a soul does not make you good. It just gives you the capacity to choose. And without it, and I think I mentioned it in one of the 2 reviews that we just watched, to me what I realize is that if you're only acting on impulse and only fulfilling desire, then you're actually incapable of free will. And so that's to me the power of the soul. And the kid without one it's not that the kid doesn't have an identity, it's just that he is incapable of making anything other than an impulsive choice. At least that's my reading. I know yours is different than mine.
But it wasn't that big of a deal to me because a soulless demon wouldn't understand what it would mean to be soul. So, I mean, that wasn't a real big problem for me. I love the nun in this episode.
Yeah, she's a lot of fun.
How she instantaneously recognized Angel for what he was. Just a quick glance and like you would come into a place of worship. To me, that was excellent. And I love the dark stuff that the demon-possessed boy tries to use to get under, excuse the pun, their skin. Angel, Wesley, you don't see that a lot in the villains. I mean, Angelus uses it a little bit, and Marcus the Vampire used it a little bit against Angel, but it's not something that's really used. And I just admired, that aspect.
No, I think that's great, and it also makes me realize that I missed pointing out the double meaning of the title of the episode itself. The demon is under the boy's skin, and the boy gets under Wesley's skin, and then literally gets the cross under his skin. So there's like 3 or 4 that happens several different times throughout.
Yeah. Let's see. We talked a little bit about the red herring of the father. That never really bothered me as much as, say, the red herring of, minor spoiler, Dawn or Double Xander.
Yeah. Well, to me, there's I was thinking about that when Boris was talking. There's a fine line between just a red herring and a trick on the audience. A red herring can be sort of a misleading idea or character or whatever, but the examples that you pointed out were things that the characters in the story knew were incorrect, but were tricks on us specifically. And I don't think the dad kind of feels that way to me. More of a trick on the audience, except that I don't know. It's tough to puzzle out. He feels different, but I see what you're saying.
I don't think so. Simply because as a parent, you want to do everything to protect your kid. You want to get him help, but at the same time, you don't want to expose him to somebody that's just going to take him down, say the police department or social services.
I think if that actor hadn't quite gone so kind, and in the second half, once we realize it's the boy, the switch the father makes to kind and compassionate is so drastic compared to what he was before. If he had been a little more douchey, or remained a little bit more douchey after that, it would clean up that feeling of it being a trick, which it's not. But because I think of the drastic change in his performance between acts, it feels off to me.
I chalk it up to hope. He, for the first time, realizes there's somebody that can actually help his son without exposing his son. And that could justify his behavioral change. Sure. Let's see. Kate, the little tidbit at the end. Of course, we're going to go into Prodigal, and I'll comment on that when we get there. But for this episode, I love that little tidbit nod between the two of the characters, Angel and Kate. She just acknowledges him. I love that a little bit.
It's funny. I've heard people talk about Angel and Kate and say they have zero chemistry, and I've heard people say they have good chemistry. I thought the chemistry was pretty good, but it's the relationship itself. We get responses from people that are kind of all over the map. But I'm in that camp of, especially in the Prodigal, I actually really enjoyed that moment where she's disarmed and talks to him like a friend again.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
but that's pretty much what I got for you on this episode. I love it. The more times I watch it, the more I like it. It's kind of weird. Right. The first time I just skimmed through it and I was like, it's a mediocre episode. But again, the more times you watch it, the more it grows on you.
Well, let me go over to Lauren. Hello.
Hey.
How are you?
I'm doing okay. Hanging in there.
I'm glad to hear it.
But yeah, I don't know how I feel about this episode. Parts of it really annoy me, and like listening to the discussion, like there's points that I haven't considered before, but like I hate the mislead with the father. It was just way too drastic for me, and as was pointed out, I mean, obviously he's under stress. Of course he's under stress. And he doesn't want to endanger his family any more than they already are. But the fact that his character did a complete 180 once it was revealed that Ryan was the demon, was the one that was possessed, it was too sharp of a turn, I think. And
Yeah, if anything, feeding my son magical pot brownies that made him turn into a scary ghost monster for half a second, you'd think would be more prone to pissing him off
Yeah.
than,
I mean,
the results that we got.
yeah, but and for Ryan himself, I mean, awesome makeup design. I mean, way to go, makeup team on that.
It's very Exorcist. It's very homage. I love it.
And the kid himself, for as young as he was very impressive. But it was also way too much the good son for me. And you pointed that out in the review, but like even as I was watching the episode, because I watched the episodes again, so yay! But I was thinking, okay, this is the good son. This is Macaulay Culkin, and I don't know. I don't buy the whole kids are just born evil thing. It's like with all the hammering they put into on souls and stuff, and it's been a while since I watched season 6, so hopefully when we get to that watch through it, I'll remember. But they don't. It's. I mean, the whole time they set up having no soul equals you're evil. Well, Warren had a soul, and
yeah,
he does some really terrible things, like not just like the petty crime fight, like the petty robbery stuff, but like what he does to Katrina, his ex-girlfriend, like that is horrifying. That is despicable. That is a person with a soul. And but they just kind of brush past that fact.
Well, I think I don't know that they.
There
aren't episodes
changing their views on soul.
Yeah, there aren't. I don't think there are episodes that really get into the mechanics of a human ignoring their soul. The closest that we get to it is Lindsay from Wolfram and Hart, and his sort of vacillating back and forth between making a good choice and making a selfish choice. But I just think that it doesn't make you good. It just gives you the capacity for good, and Warren ignores that. The humans tend to ignore that. Where Spike, who doesn't have a soul, behaves in a way in season 5 that appears altruistic at times, absorbing Glory's torture when he's already been rejected by Buffy over and over again, and then the telling the Buffy bot not to go tell Buffy. But I think if you're applying the capacity for free will thing, then Spike is really just playing out his own id, which he's a romantic, in that form. So I think it's consistent. As you said, I think the show doesn't spend nearly as much time talking about a human ignoring their soul than they do talk about the importance of a soul to a vampire, or lack of a soul to a vampire. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Again, I like the kid. I like what the kid was doing.
Yeah.
He was clearly having a blast. He's like, you mean I get to act like a horrible person, like a horrible little brat? But then it was also, the exorcism happened, the demon's gone, and just like she got more marshmallows than I did, and just like that evil glowering look, like really, no one's picking up on this. No one's thinking, hey, son, what's going on here? Why are you so upset about this? We'll give you more marshmallows.
Yeah, I think that gets to some of the clunk that we were talking about. I like evil, fully aware dark kid, but I'm suffering bait kid. Mom, it hurts. Just shut up. Obviously he's evil. Don't go over the line. Leave him alone. It's so I don't know. Yeah, there are certain things like that. I agree with you.
Yeah. But that's about all I got on this episode. Interesting points everyone brought up that I hadn't considered before, but I don't go out of my way to watch this episode.
All right, let me go over to Josh. Hello, sir.
How's it going? Can you hear me all right?
I can hear you just fine. Headphones are working.
Glad to. Whew, thank goodness.
So someone had to be the caboose, and I guess that's you today. What do you think of what we've thrown out about the episode so far? Where does this one land for you? What's your explanation of the boy?
Well, so for the dad, Russell definitely hit on an aha moment that I had in the middle of the conversation. The pivot is the dad finally has hope. And if we're, like you did in your review, if we're relating the dad to Angel, then the dad in the second half of the episode is Angel in this season. You know, finally having the opportunity to do something. And the possibility of making a difference.
Sure, that makes sense. A chance to fix things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And for me, this episode is very X-Files.
Yes.
And it was funny that you brought up Supernatural because I remember when Supernatural premiered and I thought that it was kind of like if Buffy and X-Files had a baby.
That's a good way of putting it.
But like this, like it just recast, you know, Angel as Mulder, Wesley as Scully, and re-aired the episode. It's such a procedural kind of a thing, which I actually kind of like about this because this is one of the few pure Angel Investigations episodes. They get a case, they solve the case, and then it also still relates back to the characters.
Yeah. Well, they were working on that. Somnambulist, I felt was kind of close, except for it was a lore episode.
Sure, like in this instance, like they legit get hired. You know, Somnambulist Angel's just like, oh, I got to do something.
Yeah, I'm dreaming naughty thoughts, and I like them more than I should.
Right. But the biggest thing that stands out for me in this episode is the lore building that that I read into with this whole thing. So the construction of the Buffyverse on a metaphysical level, here we go, is for me, in Buffy, there is enough evidence to say that there's a heaven and there's a hell, and that those are independent of the multiple dimensions that they visit. That if there is a heaven that is, I guess for want of a better direction, above, and a hell that is below everything.
And then all the other multiverse or all the other heavenly and hellish dimensions are loops on the ladder on the way to the big one. Is that your take?
Kind of. Maybe it's more like a graduated cylinder. At the top of the cylinder is heaven. At the bottom of the cylinder is hell, and Earth and all the various dimensions, Pylea, Kortoth, are all closer or farther away from one or the other, the top or the bottom of the cylinder.
Okay.
Like one of those, those thermometers that's like the little, glowing bulbs of heavier, lighter liquid. Yeah. That's what I was imagining.
So you don't think the and dimension then is strictly hell? It's just one that is closer to the ultimate hell.
I think so, and I think that the language used in Reprise and Epiphany points to there being a hell, because the guy, the bookstore owner is like, "You're going to go down there." He doesn't say you're going to go to Pylea or Kortoth or Second Avenue or something like that. He says you're going to go down there.
Well, metaphorically, though, the idea of the home office, hell, and Earth are synonymous in that episode.
Well, that's true, and I read that more as Earth is much closer to hell than we'd like to believe, and so Wolfram and Hart felt very comfortable establishing the home office on Earth.
So we think of in your graduated cylinder analogy, Earth is not necessarily the mean.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's not the true neutral of the range between those two. Interesting. I've never heard that before. I like it.
Then there's some heavenly evidence too. There's Buffy, obviously when she dies, and there's no secondary research done after she reveals that she was in heaven. Everybody's just like, oh, heaven. Giles isn't like, but which dimension did you go to? Or anything like that. It's oh, okay.
Yeah, they just call it heaven. I always assumed it was a heavenly dimension, but I guess you have to parse that out one way or another. Is because an ultimate death sends the soul someplace, or sends her someplace. Where does it go? As opposed to it's a big rock demon that sucks Angel into some unknown hell dimension.
Which kind of also, and this is way off topic at this point, gets into Willow's hubris, that she thinks that Buffy just fell into another dimension. No, she died.
Yeah, way different.
And then that all ties back to the nun in this episode.
Okay.
If Angel's walking into a great cathedral, a house of heaven, a house of God, and the nun is able to just sort of intrinsically recognize that he's a vampire, an ability that almost no other human ever demonstrates.
Yeah, it does imply that there is some magical power that exists in religion.
Yes.
Within the show.
And that the crucifix has the power that it does because of its connection to the top of the cylinder.
That makes sense.
And then that also means that if there are, shall we say, heads of office of heaven and hell, they are intensely passive in this universe.
Yeah, and I think there's evidence that the powers that be are not necessarily benevolent.
Agreed.
In the show. That comes up several times. So, yeah, very passive.
So this episode is one of the biggest bits of evidence to me for the way the universe is actually constructed in the Buffyverse, and that's one reason that I enjoy it. And I also, like I said, I enjoy it for being a pure procedural that still relates back to the characters well. And then the only other thing that falls off for me is actually the kid. The kid is super terrifying, and what soul? That's very effective.
That's a great moment. It's a chilling little moment.
It is. Yeah. And then at the end of the episode, after the kid has been exorcised and presumably has grown up, I assume he grew up without a soul. I assume he was born soulless. And I'm mentioning Patrick Stewart's opening narration to the X-Men, where he's like, mutation. After all that, the mom's just like, here you go, have some cocoa.
Yeah.
Like, I, in my life, have been through significantly less than demonic possession, and I've been in therapy for years. And at the end of the episode, they're like, so he's fine, right? Like, that is bananas to me, and was kind of the same kind of, like, small universe consequence of the show being written by writers.
Yeah, there's one of the greatest episodes of science fiction ever made, The Inner Light. In The Inner Light, the Next Generation episode, a probe zaps Patrick Stewart's mind, or Picard's mind, and he wakes up in another life and lives an entire lifetime on another planet, has children, grows old with his wife dies, and he lives to see a launch of a rocket that launches the probe that zaps his mind. And then he wakes up on the bridge and only 20 minutes have gone by. And that is messed up. That is some crazy, crazy, crazy things to do to a character. The episode ends very melancholy with him standing in his quarters playing a flute. And then the next episode, he's just back on the bridge. And I read interviews with the writers after the fact, and they said, yeah, we didn't really realize what we did to him. Like, the fans pointed out to us after the fact how messed up that would be to live that entire lifetime in 20 minutes, lose an entire planet that you lived on, and then 20 minutes have gone by and there's no consideration. And I think it's, you do your best, right? Like the writers in this episode, like, there's some consideration that could have been paid to consequences a little bit more, but it is what it is.
It is. And I'll save my thoughts on Kate for the Prodigal.
Sounds good. Let's move on to the Prodigal. We're running a little bit long. That's my fault. Sarah, we go from it's okay to probably one of my Sarah E. We go from it's okay to probably one of my personal favorite episodes in the first season, but I have to say it wasn't until I wrote about it. And I'm not tooting my own horn. I'm just saying like certain episodes get better in the analysis than just strictly as entertainment the way they were to begin with, because it's a depressing episode. But tell me what you think. Well,
I'm going to speak for most people, I think, and say that your analysis made me love this one a lot more.
Well, I appreciate it.
Because yeah, that was a good video. More daddy issues.
Yeah, every once in a while, I find the pattern that my baggage fits into the episode pretty well. I was like, oh, that's when I was, and then it tends to work the best that way. But anyway,
I know the feeling.
Yeah.
Right. So yes, I mean, there's always our visit to County Bad Accento.
Yeah.
But yeah, as the costume thing, I gotta say how much I love the period detail. Is so good.
Darla looks incredible in the bar, when standing next to or sitting next to Saffron. Other than yes,
Yeah.
Julie Benz is a stunner.
Yeah, Saffron and Darla. Wow, that gives some fun ideas.
Yeah. It's a lot. It's a family show.
Indeed. But let me see. Yes, Darla looks beautiful as always, but Angel's dad looked like he walked out of a painting of David Hume. It's just like, yeah, anyway, nobody cares about the
No, we do. I love it.
But it's a way to make me happy is to get all the stuff right, except, the wigs aren't ideal and the accents are.
Yeah, I do wish that and why does his dad have such a different accent than he does? But I do wish that the sets felt on target with the costumes. There's a little the exterior from Becoming Part 2 where his friend falls over drunk is a beautiful set. I don't know if they built that or what that was. And to me, a little bit of that is you can't have it. They probably didn't intend the Prodigal was going to be Becoming Part 2 with the same kind of budget. But I do wish that the sets matched the costuming.
Yeah. Oh, well, I mean, I work in theater, so I just accept it. That's
sure.
My brain will fill in the rest. So on the costumes are beautiful and well done. They probably borrowed them from an opera or something. That's the sort of thing you can do.
Yeah.
And I won't talk about Kate because it'll get repetitive if I talk, but this isn't too bad, Kate, for me. I had thoughts.
That's okay. We can come back if you want.
The father issues stuff is of course really interesting, and what I really like is just so much about Darla and Angel's relationship to me is in that scene after he kills his dad when he's in triumph.
Yeah, it's a lot.
He just twists the knife and takes it away, and it's as if she takes all of his father issues, all of his parental crap, and makes it a part of her. And like doubles down on the whole, she is his mommy thing. She is his everything.
I really wish I had my mind wrapped around the Oedipus stuff for this script because it's so present and obvious. Where he, but I think it was you actually who pointed out to me that Darla literally breastfed Angelus into existence. And there is and then he goes and kills his own father. So good Lord, is it on the nose end there?
But it wouldn't have fit in the video that you did.
No, yeah, I did something that was more personal.
in the Darla ones. There's space to talk about it there.
Yeah, I agree.
You know?
I agree.
But the other thing I mentioned, Wes's sexism.
Okay.
And it's very clear here. You know, particularly I think the line where he says women struggle with the particularly women struggle with adjusting to the idea of the supernatural and stuff like that, even though Cordelia is right there being like, oh, I found the head.
Yeah, and he does make fun of her in a kind of a Xander way, not really, but what was your class in? First Bosoms or something like that.
Yeah.
You know, so there is a little bit. I see what you're talking about. Stuff that I would say hasn't aged well.
Well, I
Or
think
it's a
it
part of his
actually
character.
looks fine for the character because I think it's a good exploration. Okay, gender studies major coming out now.
Okay.
Patriarchy and sexism are not like personality flaws. It's not like he's a bad man or whatever. They are part of the air we breathe, and especially like the world that he comes from. It's what it's what Lonnie talks about as terroir. What's in the ground gets in the grapes, right?
Oh yeah.
So, you know, it makes total sense that he has these stupid, wrong ideas of women. And he, you know, even though his intentions are to be protective and that, is always his sexism comes in with him like trying to be protective or trying to be nice, but it is still sexism. Even if it's not, you know, cruelly meant. And it's just it's an interesting piece of his character, and I think it's an interesting show because it's that someone who is a good person can still have this crap in their head.
Yeah, I think what you're talking about, there's definitely a line between, say, Mr. McClay's misogyny in Family versus unaddressed sexism in Wesley. You know, those are those are distinct from each other, I would say.
I would say it's again like what we talked about with the difference between a father being an ass and a father being abusive. It's not, I wouldn't say it's a line, I'd say it's a spectrum.
Sure. That makes sense.
And, you know, Wes is where he is on the spectrum.
Yeah.
And so are the people who wrote him.
Well, and I mean, Sarah C is pointing out in chat Billy specifically, which is one of the episodes that attempts to unpack some of what you're talking about.
Yeah, and I will have plenty to say when we get there, but I kind of actually like, in a totally don't enjoy it sense.
It's
Billy.
an ugly episode to sit through, but it has some interesting ideas.
Yeah, because there's something about actually showing that stuff and actually, you know, addressing it that's like, instead of pretending these things don't happen or pretending that it's, you know, I don't know. We'll talk about it when we get there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's interesting to that we, you know, we see this in Wes, and you know, it's just kind of good to like see the sort of environmental sexism can come out even when it's meant benignly. It's
sure. I think I think it's worth observing and thinking about how it informs character, and whether it was just a matter of dating poorly because humor changes over time, or as you said, part of the character. So yeah, definitely, I agree. Was there anything else you want to throw out about the Prodigal?
No, I'm sure others have things to.
Alrighty, let me go over to Boris. Boris, sir.
Hey. I guess I just want to bounce off the Wesley discussion while we're here. Because like a while back, I listened to like Lonnie's like Sanctuary 505 thing where they mentioned like Wesley's sexism, and I kind of made some connections where it's like his underestimation of women due to like the environment and the sexism, whatever, kind of like ties into his own downfalls. Because like he underestimated Faith, that blew up in his face. He underestimates Fred and Billy. and then he underestimates Justine, and then he gets his throat slit. So like it's like I would say like it's not it like the sexism is addressed and seems to be part of his character. It's just not necessarily confronted. Like it's not really anything he like grows past so much as like he gets like some comeuppance for it in some places, and it ties into his various other problems.
Well, yeah. I mean, he has a fall more than any other character. You know, so I personally think it's more Greek. We should all be Greeks. With his tragic flaw of always thinking he needs to be in charge and make the decision for everyone, and that eventually ends up where he goes. But certainly, yeah, Wesley has a rough road. You know, more so than maybe Xander, who is the other person that people complain about. I'm not picking on Xander. I said in the edit stream, someone asked, who is the character that you most identify with in the Buffyverse? And I said, it's Xander. So I own it. I need to love myself more, and I think that means loving Xander more. But one of the consistent complaints is that Xander's what am I, mass transportation? That's what a lot of the guys say, but I wouldn't. It's just locker room talk. I wouldn't take it. Has not aged very well and doesn't get addressed in text the way Wesley maybe does a little bit more. Or Wesley doesn't, but his life ends in such a tragic fashion that you know, we sort of think, well, he had his journey. I don't know. I haven't. This is the first time I've actually heard anyone talk about Wesley's sexism, but I see it's there. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and I guess also with Xander, like he tends to be a little more crude about it, so like it stands out more. Whereas like with Wesley, it's a bit more of a subtle British thing, so that's also a factor.
Well, we were talking about with Sarah E. We were talking about the distinction between humor that was maybe acceptable at the time but has aged poorly versus sexism that's actually a part of character or intended as a part of character. So in my mind, Wesley is the latter, and let's say Xander's masturbation joke in Restless. Sometimes I think about two women doing a spell, and then I do a spell by myself, which is a funny joke. It's just completely inappropriate in the context of Willow's journey and Willow's scene and Willow's perspective in that scene. And Joss, in the commentary, says he just thought the joke was funny enough that he didn't want to leave it out. So it's not motivated by the story or the scene or any of that. And maybe that joke, maybe that doesn't hold up in the same way. That's not a part of Xander's character or a flaw. It's just, you know, 1999 writing cultural mores were a little bit different.
Well, I guess with the Restless joke, you can make the argument that like some of it, since it's in Willow's head, it might possibly tie into like how she feels about other people. But I guess that's a whole other, we can get to that later.
Yeah.
So yeah, the Prodigal.
We'll get to Restless.
Yeah.
That will be a one episode discussion, I imagine, because it's going to.
Yeah, you're probably gonna like. There's probably gonna need to be some that are like full, separate. Maybe Sanctuary might need to be that. I don't know. Okay, yeah, the Prodigal. Yeah, it's a good episode. I probably somewhere in the top 5 for this season. Yeah, because like, and you mentioned I Will Remember You and Hero before that. And those probably stand out just a bit more. Like they're a bit more memorable in a way, even though this is also kind of an Angel backstory episode. But like this one is a little bit more clean, so that does like it is probably a little more tightly written. Whereas like with those other two, it's like it's a little more messy, but there's more feels, I guess. And I guess how we're gonna bounce off from there. One thing this rewatch has kind of helped clarify for me a little bit is like a bit more of like why Kate is mad at Angel for this, because like I either forgot or just assumed it was more something related to do with vampirism or whatever. But like, but essentially what happens here is that like it's kind of a wild at heart situation where it's like, you know, Angel probably could have told Kate about her dad beforehand, like like he was trying to protect her and stuff, and that's cool. And like he didn't wait too long to where it was unreasonable. But like if he had told her earlier, she could have maybe gotten there in time to stop what happened. So that is a possible because she even during the scene where she finds him, it's like Kate, he couldn't know what was going on. It's like, you did, and it's like, oh yeah, you probably should have said something. And there's even a line like at the end where like well, you shouldn't trust like an evil thing, and then she's just kind of like kneeling down, and she doesn't answer the question. It's like, oh yeah, he didn't follow through, and he screwed up. So there's definitely some like guilt or like resentment there, and like it even makes sense with Sanctuary as far as like like he's Angel is like what is the word like he's holding a prisoner. And he didn't tell her about it, so it's like that kind of is another example of like he's not telling her stuff, and that's a bad. So even if it makes sense for the character, like you can understand why she's kind of miffed. So like this did clarify a little bit for me on that point.
I think I've had my mind wrapped around the journey of the character. I'm not sure that that's really the issue with Kate. It's that it's not pulled off in a particularly interesting fashion.
I do kind of feel like it gets a little repetitive by the time we get to Shanchu in LA. Like,
right.
I feel like they could have done like something about it feels a little off after that, and then like in the Shroud of Ramon, it's like they decided to be like, okay, let's wrap this up. We're good. Let's move on from this.
Yeah, it gets tedious enough to the point that Angel actually yells at her, and that feels like a satisfying scene for us. I'm tired of being blamed for your father's death. And we're like, oh, thank God, he finally said it. But it's relieving because we've been annoyed by her enough up to that point, which, I don't know. Again, it has a tinge of the Connor. Okay, I get it. It's just not fun to watch.
Yeah, I feel like they execute I feel like the motivation makes enough sense, especially rewatching the episode. But like, I feel like the way it was handled could have been better. Like, I don't hate Kate because of it, because like I get it, but like something about it fell off.
Yeah, I get the journey. It's just I don't enjoy the beats, I suppose.
Well, even me, like I feel more for Connor in retrospect. Like both kind of like. Once you kind of view it more from his perspective and stuff, like, and I don't always like to do that, but like you kind of like.
Let's not go Connor yet, because I got a lot of feelings when you said the word Connor, and it's not going to go to a good place. Let's stay on the Prodigal.
Yeah. All right. So the episode. One thing I do appreciate about this episode, and compared to something like the Iron Team, is that they have a comedic subplot in here that actually pays off. Because like with that episode, like Iron Team, it's like they have that, and it doesn't really pay off in a satisfying way. Whereas like with here, we have the subplot where Cordy is like setting up the security system, and that's throughout the whole episode. And the payoff for that is that like it doesn't work at all. The demons come in, and it's still like the window has been broken. And it's like, oh no. And you can almost argue that it's almost like a parody of the fact that like Angel can't get into the house to save Kate's dad at the end, in a way. If you want to argue that, like it's like a farcical version where it's like like in that case you should have come in and then messed up. So
well, I think they're big fans of parody, parody. When it comes to storytelling, beats that repeat in different sections, so that would make sense.
Yeah, so I kind of like Manir. He knows what he's doing, so like I could buy that. That might have been at least partially intentional, so that's cool. Let's see what else I got in my notes. Oh yeah, one, and this is probably gonna get into some nitpicky territory, but the scene where like Angel comes in with or Vampire and Jealous or whatever. Actually, let's start before that. This is just another thing. The thing where like the vampires need to be buried to or rise from the grave is something they established in the lore. It's backed up in Reunion, and I'm just like, man, Darla had to wait would have had to wait like a lot of days, Angel, because like how you need time to arrange that funeral. It's like,
well, I think though that the body shows that doesn't need to happen. Right?
That is true. But they do seem to imply that you need that in Angel, at least, because when Darla comes back and then Drusilla vamps her, Angel makes the point that Darla has to get buried first before she can rise. So it's kind of inconsistent, I guess.
There's also the Watcher flunky in Helpless.
Yeah, they're not always consistent with that.
Which now my mind is trying to fill in how Kralik, while stapled to the wall, killed a guy and made the guy drink from him enough. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. The Prodigal.
Yeah. The messages imply that maybe it's just a traditional thing, but I'd have to rewatch the episode to be sure. But maybe you're right. Oh yeah. Also, we have the scene where Angel comes to the dad's house, and it's like he's boring the windows, and then it's like, oh, but I was let in, and then you cut to the daughter who's dead, and part of me is just like, was the hammering so loud that he couldn't hear his daughter invite someone and then get killed? That seems a little suspicious, but whatever. And then I kind of like how he's like, oh, it's like, oh, she thought I had returned as an angel, and then he does this eye shift where he's like, I'm gonna use that name later. So that's pretty amusing.
Huh.
Yes, yeah, he does an eye twitch. I made a picture of it. It's pretty amusing. It's cute. I like it. Anything else? I kind of like that Kate's dad. Oh yeah, and I guess this goes back to the point about how Angel could have told Kate about the thing, where it's there's kind of a parallel with Angel and Kate's dad, where both of them don't want to tell her anything, and it ultimately bites them in the butt because he's trying to get money for her sake, and is she's not corrupt like her old man or whatever. I like that the episode, Kate's dad is a dick, but he's at least a reasonable dick in this episode. You see why he's doing what he's you understand why he's doing what he's doing. It's not ethical, but you kind of get where it's it's at least for a good reason.
I love the actor who plays her dad. He's been in a number of movies that I really enjoy. But I think that is an intended parallel between both her dad and Liam's father. The I was never in your way, boy moment that I blew completely out of proportion and wrote a whole guide around was a moment of humanity and access to the two of them actually having a relationship as with love and as equals. And I think that that actor is doing a very stagey character the rest of the time, but that moment of vulnerability, I think Kate's father has the entire time too. It's just the relationship of child and parent that aren't communicating particularly well that I think sets up the tragedy at the end of the episode.
And I would agree that parallel exists, but I at least noted the Angel and the Kate's dad parallel in this case, just because with both of those relationships, it there's kind of this lie that they have and they want to protect her, but then tragedy strikes and then that happens. Whole crime lord and the demon and the drugs or whatever, I'm okay with what they did with it. It works. It's fine. But I kind of feel maybe this was an idea that they could have had a sequel to or something because the villain is kind of basic and I feel they could have done more with the idea because they're man, what if this drug got to some already super powerful demons? That could be a big thing. And there's potential in that story and maybe this could have been a Billy situation where we have the episode do it and then we get the follow-up that fully explores the idea more.
Well, there's just so much drama and power in the other stories around the crime boss that the crime boss feels super perfunctory to me.
I would agree, but I still feel maybe there was you could have done there could have been some kind of reusing of this idea at some point, maybe.
Yeah.
And it's also like you almost wonder if they could have had Wolfram and Hart involved in this possibly, and that could have tied into some stuff. That could have been kind of cool, but it works. It's not bad. It's just kind of meh, and that's fine because like the main focus is the whole Kate Angel daddy issues and whatnot.
Well, I want to get everyone else a chance to speak. Was there anything else you wanted to throw out about this one?
Let me just check the notes real quick. The Darla thing. Oh yeah, this will be the last main thing, but
okay.
This is low hanging fruit, but like the get out from Kate in this one is so much better than Dawn. It's not like I'm so sorry, but it's true. And
well, one of them is a 14-year-old, and the other one is an adult whose dad just died in front of her. That would be my response to that.
That's a reason, but like that doesn't mean they couldn't have directed the scene better. And they do it twice. They do it twice in the show, and it's like you didn't once. I can give you a pass, but like twice now.
It's so odd to me that one line of Dawn's in one episode is such a sticking point for us as a community, but it is. And, wherever we all land on that, that feels perfectly like a 14-year-old having a freak out to me.
It's the fact that it's twice. Like the first time, it's annoying, but I can kind of give it a pass, but the second time, I'm just like, no.
I think it's 4 times. But either we don't need to get into Dawn. Let's stick with the Prodigal. Yeah, but I think I heard that observation. I don't remember if I went to Jack next or to Sarah C. Jack, do we remember the order? I forgot. Jack next. Jack.
I think it was me.
Okie dokie. Yeah, I was writing. Again. I've been writing down the order that I was going to you guys, and I forgot to put your name in there.
I don't have too much to say, so it'll be pretty quick. I would like to reiterate what Sarah said in that I've always liked this one, but it was the guide that really just really elevated it for me. I love the exploration of how a lack of self-worth can be destructive not only to oneself but to the people around you. That's something I didn't quite get from the episode until I saw the guide, and I was like, oh yeah, wow.
Well, in the ways in which he duplicates that relationship over and over again, including with Buffy, who we think of as his healthy relationship, but really is not.
Yeah, it's really not. They're almost codependent in a way.
Almost.
Well, no, yeah, very much so.
Yeah,
very much so.
Yeah. And by the way, before I piss off any Bangel shippers, I am neither a Bangel nor a Spuffy nor a Ruffy shipper. I'm a cookie dough shipper. So there's that.
And I also love your closing statements in the video, just about how I'm blanking, just how like you say something like the love given or denied us need not determine who we are, or something along those lines.
If we cede our self-worth to someone who abuses them, it's on us to realize that was still our choice.
Yeah. For personal reasons, that's very poignant to me, and I just think that's just a beautiful sentiment altogether. It's all about it's almost like it sort of reminds me of something else that you've said in a video is no matter how vast the darkness, we must supply our own light.
The Kubrick quote at the end of Lie to Me.
Yeah. It's kind of similar in the sense that the world can treat you like crap. The people around you can treat you like crap, but that's not the be all and end all of it all. That doesn't make you who you are. And you're in control of that.
Yeah. You still have a choice. You don't have a good choice, but you have a choice is one of the most powerful sentiments in all of the show.
I find myself quoting that a lot.
Yep.
But yeah, you are wonderful, and you make me feel all of the things, and I love you dearly, sir.
I love you too, Jack. Well, we'll stop the love fest now. Is there anything else you want to throw out about the Prodigal?
No, that's it. I'm done. Oh, wait. One more thing, quickly. I love anytime the Buffyverse takes us back in time, and we get to see the history of Angel and Darla, Spike, Drusilla, and all of that.
Oh.
Mostly because I think the overall production design is just really good. Like the costumes, the sets, it's just really well done, and it's really believable. I just love it.
Flashback episodes
and it's also
are inevitably some of the best episodes on the in both shows.
Yeah, and it's just nice to see the sort of sinister history of these villains, rather than hearing about it like in secondhand accounts and stuff like that.
His rising moment is quite a bit. Kate in chat says never stop the love fest. Boris says I forgot to mention how this nicely sets up Darla for Angel season 2, works as a flashback for the story of the next season. Yeah, this is definitely the jumping off point for Darla's role in season 2.
Yeah. But yeah, that's me done. Yeah. Cheers.
All right, bud. Sarah C. Hello.
I'm just making food, so ignore me.
All right. Well, do you mean like ignore you, or
ignore any noise if there is? There shouldn't be.
Okay. Well, we're talking the Prodigal, and it was the one you said you accidentally segued into earlier. So
I'm doing a lot of thoughts. It's great. I mean, this one's great. I love Angel. And as we've said, the flashbacks are particularly good. Oh boy, if Angel is a show about creating yourself and defining yourself in that whole lifelong process, Angel never really got to do that, and that's what I find so fascinating about his characters. That he was Liam, and he was a young guy with no particular aspirations. He's in fact maybe the closest to the vampire template in the sense that he's completely impulse driven. He hasn't given a second thought as to who he is, what he wants, except that he doesn't like his dad, and he doesn't like his dad breathing down his back. But that's it.
Yeah.
Right? And then he's turned into a vampire, and he spends the majority of his existence as a soulless sadist being, second to Darla, and that's it. And then he gets his soul, and he's suddenly dropped into like, oh shit, I have to figure out who I am. I mean, and he stumbles with that over and over and over before becoming the guy we see. So every single step in that journey is just so impossibly fascinating to me as a case study for how we understand and how we create ourselves. So I mean, there's so much to love in this. I love Darla. I think Darla is just so freaking interesting, and I wish we got more with her. It's the same deal as Angel, as in like she didn't get to be, and then she was a demon, and then she got to be a human for a half second and then died. And she's even older than him, so it's the same idea. But I'll talk more about Darla when we get to Darla, because I freaking love her. But I love her sort of picking Angel out. This seemingly, like almost like you pick a puppy at the pound, which would go into everybody calling Angel a puppy. But she sort of, she's sitting there and she's observing, like, oh, that one, yes, I like that one. And he's not even like, particular. I mean, I'm sure you could go into any tavern in Northern Ireland or wherever they are and find some drunk,
drunken lout. It would be the.
And you could find 10, picking bar fights, and like Liam ain't special, and yet she picks him. And so I wonder, like, why did she pick him? Like, or maybe are vampires? Yes, of course, I love David, but are vampires lonely? Whatever the reason was it some twisted need for companionship, and maybe in a motherly way of wanting to create that urge to, I want someone like me. And I see this man who again is as close to what vampirism is as an impulse driven life. Like, holy shit, like this guy's like absolutely bonkers. Like, hell yeah, I want him on my team. So that's super interesting. is how and why she picks him.
Well, when you were talking about "I've Got You Under My Skin" earlier, you said something that I wanted to highlight, and you reminded me of it here. And that is that if Buffy is a show, I've said if Buffy is a show about growing up, then Angel is a show about being an adult. I think I said Soul about growing up. But anyway, and to me, those two processes are distinct in an interesting way that informs the storytelling on both shows. Adolescence is about building identity. To some degree, adulthood is about tearing identity down and building it back up again. Baggage, abuse, things that you carried into adulthood that are driving you to make decisions that you're not proud of, or decisions that don't make you happy. And part of that requires understanding your own identity, self-awareness, picking apart, oh, this happened when I was this age, I made this decision about the world, and that is what is poisoning the well of my life in this moment. And the two different approaches to storytelling in Buffy and Angel are very interesting in the way that you were talking about the first time through. You're talking about the way they tear Angel down to try and understand his identity. And to me, that's partly just the process of being an adult, especially at 40 years old. It's like, you know what? I've been miserable at circuses since I was 12. I don't want to be miserable at circuses. Why am I miserable at circuses? That's a terrible example. But I'm just saying it requires a self-examination to go, oh, when I was 7, this horrible thing happened, and I want choice not only over the world around me, but about the inner workings of my own heart. And the freedom to do so lies in self-examination. And so that I think that's a very interesting way that what you were talking about, how Angel the show tells a story versus how Buffy tells a story. It's a bit of a tangent, but I just wanted to get that out of my head.
I mean, I agree. And to that extent, right, Angel spends the majority of his existence in like a prolonged frozen adolescence.
Right.
And if you think about it, you know, he's almost trapped in amber is his last decision of consequence, which is to impulsively leave, you know, to storm out on his father, even in spite of, you know, his reach out for him. That's his last big significant decision before, you know, Darla meeting Darla, and then she turns him. Yeah. So that's almost like his last informing push of, this man can't tell me who I am, and then freeze, and then everything that Angelus is, and then unfreeze, and suddenly this man has the ability to reflect, which obviously vampires can't. As a being of impulse, you know, reflection is not really in your wheelhouse. You know, self-examination, and then he's with all of that baggage, and it's that's the tragedy in it. But it's because of all of that baggage that Angel has to self-reflect to the extent that he does, and then eventually gets the choice of, doing good is something worthwhile. It starts, again, it evolves into we do it because it's right, regardless of its futility, but, you know, it's spurred on by everything that Angelus was. So it's, if, as the first sort of implies to him, and I don't think the first was right, but, you know, when it talks to him in amends, he's like, you know, I was the man once. It's like, oh, and what a man you were.
What a man you were.
Had Liam lived out his life, what kind of man would he have been? I don't think anything extraordinary. He certainly nothing the likes of what Angel is, you know, because that tragedy is part of Angel's psyche. It is part of why he is how he is. So, you know, it's, I'm not saying, you know, he should be grateful to have been a vampire, but the incredible and dark and complex man that we get is because of this. He's not Liam, you know.
Well, I think that part of his journey is accepting that being a vampire is a part of who he is, and the climactic line in Not Fade Away is, "Can you pick out the one word there that you probably shouldn't have said?" And he uses the part of his identity that he finds repugnant in order to win that battle. And that is symbolically him accepting that this is, for better or for worse, this is a part of who I am. That and rejecting the Shanshu prophecy.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, rejecting the escape hatch. All good stuff. All good stuff. Was there anything else you wanted to mention about that one?
I won't try to take up too much time. I could talk about this forever. Let me look at my notes. I mean, yeah, it's we are in part, at least, as people see us, or we, at least when we lack direction, we sort of internalize, these, oh, well, my father sees me like this, so my reaction is to that. Oh, yeah, I mean, I think we talked about it last time too, with like Somnambulist, right? And so part of becoming is understanding that these are all, sure, the way your father sees you and his approval is one part of it, and Darla's is another, and how she sees you and defines you. But within all of that, those are just little interpretations, little prisms. There's you, and it's a journey to creating that. The other thing is that I want to speak to one last thing. I people love to get caught up in, or not caught up, but we like to talk about shipping a lot, because whatever, it's an easy little appeal, because relationships are fun and cute, romantic,
Sure, yeah.
and I
drama.
myself as a little bit of Bangel trash earlier, and that's fine. and I don't mean that in a typical, like, I'm gonna make Tumblr edits about them and ooh woo, they're my relationship goals. I just think that their story and their relationship to each other, I think beyond season 3, is just my little tidbit, is interesting to me as two people who continually orbit each other. I love their bumps in Yoka Factor and Forever, and I think that's really interesting. And the reason I like them is because they're never going to be together, and I enjoy that. I think that's the point, that they shouldn't be together. But to that end, last thing, Angel and Buffy's relationship was absolutely codependent and unhealthy in season 2 and even 3, of course, which is why he left. And it makes perfect sense in the sense that is both of their first love.
Sure.
That's Buffy's first love, obviously. And Angel, whatever Angela's had with Darla is fascinating, and I want to talk about that for the rest of my life. But that wasn't love in the sense of what love is. So of course it's hyperbole and melodrama because they're both teenagers. Like, yes, this is a 200-year-old man. He doesn't know what it's like to receive love so openly. So then you get what we got in season 2 and 3, because developmentally he's very much, she's figuring out who she is as a 17-year-old, 16-year-old, and so is he. So to that end, their relationship has that sweetness of two. If we imagine our minds, two teenagers who super dramatically fell in and it exploded in love, and who sort of returned to each other as adults, like, hey, remember when we cried over each other?
Yeah. Do I have to use the cookie analogy?
And that's what it feels like to me. They feel like two high school sweethearts who then grew and are like, who saw each other at their most melodramatic, and I think that's sweet. But that's...
Well, I would argue that Buffy doesn't have a healthy relationship. And the healthiest relationship that she has in that very low bar is Riley. And the only problem with that relationship is she doesn't actually love him. Yeah, when we debate relationships and which one is more interesting or whatever, it's like healthy just doesn't really apply when talking about Buffy and men. So
yeah, exactly.
Well, let me go over to Russell. Russell,
hey, Ian. Yep, I'm here.
We're talking. I'm good. We're talking the Prodigal. And Liv, I just wanted to say hi, welcome. Liv says, by the way, when Sarah, you were making your Tumblr comment, 14-year-old me feels very attacked right now, which I think is fair. But Russell, tell me about the Prodigal. Where does this one land for you? Thoughts, feelings?
Well, I'll start with Kate. I had a little hope in the prior episode, I Got You Under My Skin, where they had that little acknowledgement. And then here in the beginning, where she seems to almost have a pleasant conversation with Angel. And then we get to the point of her father dying, and she scapegoats Angel and the demon world he's a part of for the murder of her father. And that never gets resolved. Yuck. Let's see. I didn't like the demon. What's that?
The opening scene in the subway between the two of them is one of my favorite scenes between the two of them, where everything is on the table. They both know who they are, and she's sort of begrudgingly relating to him as a necessity of her job and the city, but still has that boundary of we're not going to be friends. I really appreciated that. I thought that was an interesting dynamic that then gets sabotaged by something that was less interesting. But go ahead.
That could have been great. Lack of better term right now, I'm blanking, but colleagues, she's a detective, he's a PI. Maybe not a romantic or a good friendship, but they could have been good colleagues together. And I would have liked that a lot better than what we got. The demon wasn't a great payoff for this episode, but I kind of understand it given that there was so much drama between Angel's backstory, Kate's father, Kate, Angel, and Kate.
We were talking about we were talking about good makeup in the previous episode. The makeup for the demon in this one kind of, to me, looks like they put latex in a shotgun and fired it at his face. I mean, he looks like an infected testicle. Just complete hodgepodge of random nothing. Anyway, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Russell.
Which is what his character is. I mean, he's all talk. I mean, Angel decapitates him, inside 3 seconds?
Yeah.
Yeah, that just went nowhere. I really like this episode. Again, I can't undo this. The whole thinking of Darla as Angel's mother rather than just her sire, it's just something that can't be undone in this episode.
Yeah. Yeah. Now that I completely understand the Oedipal comparisons, gross. The worst part, though, to me, is not Darla and Angel. The worst part is the way it informs his relationship with Buffy, and the fact that he is so driven by a desire for validation. And his biggest act of self-determination is leaving Sunnydale, which is the beginning of his character. When I wrote the episode guide for Graduation Part 2, or the prom, I was angry that they took that away from Buffy's character because Buffy broke up with him. And then he got all moody and, I'm a man and the man needs to die and all of this. And she's like, okay. And so they start hanging out again, and then he breaks up with her, which annoyed me to no end from Buffy's perspective. But from Angel's perspective, they needed his character to make a choice for his own self-determination that breaks that pattern that was set up with his father and Darla, and then repeated again with Buffy.
Yeah. I think the last bit of my notes, when Angelus kills Liam's father, yes, I segregate them too. And Darla gives him the speech of like, you didn't win.
His defeat of you will last lifetimes.
Yes. I wonder if that was kind of the template that would be the more sadistic Angelus from that point on.
More sadistic than killing a whole village of people?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, look at some of the more brutal kills, like the way he did Jenny Calendar. It wasn't just the fact that he killed her. It was what he did with her afterwards.
Yeah, the art of it. You wonder how educated Liam is, because Angel is educated. Angel knows, like the scene in She in the museum with the painting, and he instantly knows the background of the painting. And Angel has an education, and you wonder how much Liam, whether he was a drunken, whoring layabout, if Angelus then found an interest in art, which I think is a strange concept, this horrifying monster who is taken by Dadaism and all of that. Anyway, sorry. I'm very tangential today, Russell. I apologize.
No worries. I think that's all I really had for you.
Okay. So. Well, let me go over to Lauren. Lauren. Hi, I think you're still muted. I can't hear you. There we are. I can hear you now.
Okay, there we go. Yeah. Okay. So I love Angelus being the one that's the art lover. That just adds such a depth to his character, and I love it. 100% in headcanon. Angelus was the one who made Angel love art.
Yeah, or he picked it up from Darla. Maybe Darla is because she definitely has a socialite, a high society look going in becoming part 2. So maybe that's an education that he got from her. But it's interesting to think about where it came from because it's a huge part of Angel's character.
Yeah. This episode was good. I like this episode a lot. I like getting pieces of Angel's history as Liam. Although it was kind of interesting to see the character his father was, because in Becoming, in Buffy, when Liam and his friend are getting tossed out of the bar, Liam's saying, "We'll raid my father's silver cabinet. He's not even going to notice it's gone. He eats with his hands, the pig." So that, to me, established his father as really no better than Liam, and, not educated, not smart, kind of a drunk himself, possibly. And so to see his father in Angel the series, well-to-do, a very stern father, I think legitimately did want what was good for his son, but
it's so much in one line, so much in the delivery of one line.
Yeah, I mean, but the way he grabs his arm and he looks at him and he's like, "I was never in your way, boy." Like that.
It's so vulnerable. It hits me right in the feely parts.
Yeah, and but yeah, just really interesting character, what we got versus what I was expecting. But yeah, I loved him looking to Darla for approval in his first kill, because I mean, had he ever gotten approval from his father? I mean, certainly not in recent memory. So this is the first time that an authority figure is giving him approval. And I liked the way it was paralleling between Angel's memories as Liam and his past versus what was going on with Kate's father. And
it's a really interesting writing technique to do that. You have a parallel story for a character that we care about already and have affection for, running against one that we're still getting to know. And I think from it's very advantageous because it breeds a certain amount of, allows the writers to borrow a certain amount of empathy that we have for one character and deliver it to this other one. I mean, I certainly cared. Sense and Sensitivity is Kate's other episode at this point. And that one did not, I mean, I remember our discussion of that. We all think it was acceptable, but it did not land for us as a Kate episode. This one works for me. Her moment when she breaks through the door and sees her dad breaks my heart.
Kate in this episode, I mean, seeing her father's body earlier in the episode where, she's investigating the case and, trying to gather evidence and really getting nowhere with it because, average height, average build. She's like, really, this is all you can give me? But then she sees her father and like the look on her face when she's telling Angel, I think he's here to check up on me. Like, she's not annoyed that, oh, daddy's checking on me, I can't do anything right. No, she's genuinely happy. She's like, he's checking up on me.
And we see Angel's capacity for empathy in that scene too, where he notices her reaction, which I think is great.
Yeah, but
sorry, I think I have an app open that's making noise. But continue.
But her turning away from Angel after that, it's like I'm on the fence because I understand, he's a vampire. She sees obviously that her father was killed by vampires. So, but to suddenly lump him, like, she knows, like she had said to him in that very episode, like, I know you're not, I know you're a good person despite what you are.
Right.
And all of a sudden she's lumping all right, you're a vampire equals evil, bad. I don't like you anymore. I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence.
I think I think we all get the motivation. We all understand the turn the character takes. What it lacks after that is complexity. It becomes a single. She becomes a single note. There's no there's no moment of this. Oh, there's something else going on, or this could be more, or whatever. She's the undeadest cop. Because her father died, and she's that until the final episode, Epiphany.
Yeah, and
Josh, you can debate me in a second.
But yeah, I mean, for it to come after, I mean, because she had to have known she wasn't coming out of that garage alive if Angel hadn't shown up, like. And maybe that was her intention, you know, and maybe that was part of the reason that she was so mad at him. It's like, I wanted to avenge my father and I wanted to die. 2 birds, 1 stone, and you kind of ruined that for me. Maybe.
Yeah, Boris points out passion when Giles goes to the factory without Buffy. Yeah, it's definitely a passion moment.
Yeah, definitely very passion-esque.
And Vincent K in the chat says, yeah, but I think it's a common trope in stuff like this, to be honest, the Kate thing. I agree. And I think that both shows trade in tropes, but they're very good about developing them into something more interesting. I think Gunn begins from is incredibly tropey at first, you know, and I don't have a problem with tropes per se, but to me they're a starting point to get someplace more interesting, and Kate just never gets there.
Yeah, I would have liked to know. I mean, I understand her being at her father's gravesite was from Angel's point of view. He was watching her. How exactly he got there, I don't know. Does the mausoleum have a sewer entrance? I don't know. But I mean, he's got vampiric hearing. If she were saying some things to him to her father's headstone, he would have been able to hear it. And I would have liked to have a little more depth to that scene for her.
Yeah, I mean we're just looking for
start to say something, but then realize that the words aren't coming. Just something.
I think most audience members want to like the character. That's what we're in it for. We're in it for a connection. We're in it for. We want our empathy to trigger. We want to our compassion to work. And you know, I don't think there's anyone who doesn't wish that Kate had landed more successfully. It's not just a kind of visceral dislike for most of us.
Honestly, my biggest issue with Kate is that I saw the potential. There was potential for her character. And whether the writers, the actress, both, it never really came.
Yeah.
Until her final episode and her final scene, which I love, is fantastic.
Epiphany is spectacular.
It's so perfect, and it's like, where was this Kate in all the episodes before?
Yeah, and it's tragic that moment of her peak interest is the last moment that she's on the show.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do love her in Epiphany.
Yeah.
Well, was there anything else you want to throw out about the Prodigal?
No, I don't think so. Good episode. I like this one a lot more than I do the previous one.
I just wanted to point out, Raphael in chat said, "Tell Lauren she is my favorite. Always look forward to hearing her thoughts."
Aw, thank you.
Okay, let me go over to... Oh, and he also said, on today's live stream, Elizabeth Rohn said she had daddy issues in real life. I mean, who doesn't? Really? But I think he's talking about the Wizard World live stream that was earlier. When I was editing, a bunch of people came in and said that they had just come from that. Josh!
How's it going?
The Prodigal. Not you, but the episode.
Well, that's flattering on either count.
So you reacted to something I said, and we can debate it in a minute. I can't remember exactly what it was, but what was the point of contention?
Well, before I get into that, I want to say, Sarah C., your thoughts continue to make me want to stand up in my living room and cheer and clap. So I have three. I have three kind of points about this episode. The first of which is, yes, I'm going to defend Kate.
Okay, I love it. I love it.
Second is, I think I've got a decent metaphor tied to Darla for this episode.
Okay.
And the third is, I might get a little personal. So first of all, frickin' Elizabeth Rome, man, just in every scene, quality of the writing notwithstanding, just brings it for my money. And like when she bursts through the door and like, oh daddy no, and she's collapsing and like I'm
a puddle.
Same, man, and like just the absolute conviction that she plays what is a kind of criminally mishandled character. I mean,
it's weird.
Good
Angel,
on her.
Angel kind of has a history of that show, doesn't it? Of
a little bit
character mishandling.
I
anyway.
have a theory that Mutant Enemy as a collective sucks at improv.
Okay.
That if their well-crafted plan has a hitch in it, it gets shot to hell.
Yeah, I think there's evidence to support that.
Yeah, I think that Lauren mentioned it just a second ago that it's a shame this is the Kate that we got, because I think if her character arc, had been allowed to progress past Epiphany, we might hold her up alongside, or maybe in the same tier as Wesley and Willow, in terms of just a monumental character arc. But because it peaked when it did, which is, in my view, relative to the character arc that we got, amazing. Relative to the potential where it could have been, mediocre, middle of the road. Then most of what we remember about Kate is her being undeadest.
Yeah, the trait she inherited from Xander.
Yeah, but the scene in Epiphany in the courtyard does three things. It evolves Angel's character arc, it evolves Kate's character arc, and it is a linchpin for the franchise.
It's one of the biggest, yeah.
Yeah, and that makes Kate, at best, the third most interesting thing in that scene. Which sucks.
Yeah. No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, but so her psychology, because the psychology of her character makes a lot of sense to me. With what we know about her father from Sense and Sensitivity and in this episode, she loved someone who did not love her back, or did not show that he loved her back. I think it was very clever of the writers to make the romantic and sexual tension between Angel and Kate very one-sided. Kate is very interested in Angel, and I never read that Angel is interested in Kate romantically or sexually.
Yeah, the eunuch.
So here, yeah. So here's another person in her life that she wants affection from and isn't getting it.
That's interesting. I had not made that connection. I like it. I don't feel like that's explicit in the text. But that's just
I don't think it is either.
My reading of it, but I think that if it's a headcanon, I think it's an interesting one. I like it.
Well, it's very difficult for me to discuss the Prodigal, and I guess I should have owned this at the top, through anything other than my incredibly filtered lens. I see a lot of myself in the Prodigal.
Yeah, well, the reason why people highlight that as one of my better videos is exactly the same thing. My dad and I were estranged for years when I was a teenager, and his line, "I was never in your way, boy," connected with me at just the right moment for me to be able to unpack that episode in a way that was deeply personal. And because I did so, the video manages to land for other people who watch it. But
I'm definitely one of those people.
Well, good. Yeah, then it worked. There's the dramatic ending, or there's that one that works sometimes. But anyway, I interrupted you. I'm sorry.
No worries. So Kate never got to resolve her issues with her father before he died.
Yeah.
And Kate was just beginning to resolve her issues with Angel in this episode, and then her father died. And so it makes sense to me that grief is a tricky thing. It makes sense to me that if she was never able to resolve her issues with this one person from whom she wanted love, resolving her issues with this other person from whom she wanted, at the very least, affection, probably felt really survivor guilty. And at the very least, really guilty. And there's a lot of transference from Kate's dad to Angel because of this episode.
I love everything you're saying. It gets me really excited. I just wish there was more text.
I agree.
But I love this interpretation of what's there. I think it's wonderful. And maybe they were going for it. Yeah, who cares if they were going for it or not? The signs of it are there. So I love it.
So she shuts the door on Angel because she can never reopen it with her father.
Liv says, "Holy shit, you're making me interested in Kate. I didn't think that was possible." This is why we're here. This is why we're here. This is why we're here.
So Darla. So season 2 of Angel. Thank you so much for how deep you've gone into these opening episodes of season 2, because it really connected with me. And I suppose I should put it a trigger warning. The sexual assault vibes.
Yeah, me too.
Liam's transformation, and that casts Darla as his abuser.
Yep.
And we see in this episode that she's not just his abuser; she's a predator. She actively sought him out to convert him to a vampire, which has the metaphor.
Yep.
But then there's also the underlying metaphor of Angel being a recovering alcoholic, which also could cast Darla in the role of his drug dealer. And there's a drug dealer in this episode.
Who hooks him.
Exactly.
Interesting.
So, or at the very least pushes him off the wagon.
Yeah.
Is the toxic friend who's like, dude, you can handle it.
Yeah.
And keeps buying you shots. Even after you've told them.
Well, and they were definitely exploring that with Renferatu in Somnambulist. So I like that prism.
So the drugs in this episode, to me, are the metaphor for Angel's vampirism. And also even for Kate's toxicity going forward. Angel becoming a vampire and Kate's father dying are not their fault. They were things done to them.
Right. Yeah, the one
and
thing
the way they care.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say the one thing I regret about the way that guide is written, and was I used the word punishment. I said that, and the reason I did is because David uses the line or says the line sometimes, and it's so powerful to me. Sometimes the punishment for one bad decision is not commensurate with the offense. And that shakes me to my core because that is his life. And I use the word punishment for making the choice to close his eyes and follow Darla into the alley. And there's a better word would have been consequence.
Sure.
He did not know what the consequences of the decision were going to be. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. He's still paying for that choice. He's still paying for that decision. And that's what I was trying to get at. Go ahead.
I think punishment definitely fits from Angel's perspective.
From his perspective,
sees it as punishment. Yeah. Which, goes back to Bethany. But
yeah. We'll get there.
Oh, Bethany. So it's this thing that was done to them, and that also has to me, going back to the Kate Defender, that also has the sort of peripheral effect of making Kate a dark reflection of Angel.
Okay.
So I adore this episode for all those reasons, and I adore this episode, and I adore your review of it, your guide of it. And this is the personal part. Because somebody posted in the Passionate Nerds Facebook group that Buffy literally helps them with manage their anxiety. And I made a comment on that. Buffy helps keep me sober. And your guides help keep me sober, including this one. So I relate heavily to Angel overall through the alcoholic metaphor. And so when he's, struggling to make daily choices that support his redemption, that's what folks like me do. And it's, my brain just works differently. There's plenty of people out there who can have a beer or can have 2 or 3 beers and they're fine. And that's just not for people like me.
Yeah.
And, so I have to make different choices and Angel has to make different choices than what other people might think that he could or should make.
Yeah.
So that's the personal part. I really relate to the Prodigal and to your review about this.
Well, I can't tell you what you sharing that means to me, man. I appreciate it. The I think it was in the top 10. It was in the Comic-Con talk from one year where I talked about just how the show Buffy is still saving people. And I'm definitely one of them, and I would bet that there are many people in this conversation or in chat that would say the same. So, well, was there anything else you wanted to mention about Prodigal?
No, I mean it's fantastic, and it really is good setup and foreshadowing for season 2, for sure.
Yeah. All right, but Liv, who has her headphones off, can she hear me? Hello, Liv. She can't hear me. Okay, that's fine. Technical difficulties. Well, I'll vamp for time for a minute. I once knew a man named Ian. The problem with limericks with my name in it is that not much rhymes with Ian except things that you don't want to say out loud. So, Liv, you are muted in the hang. There we go. I can hear you. Hello.
I'm back. Hello.
Welcome. We missed you the last couple. How you doing?
I missed you guys. I was in the the typey chat for the last one.
Ah, good deal. I don't know everyone's pseudonyms.
I'm Juggy in the typey chat. I was gonna stay there today until I heard Boris talking about my girl Dawn and the iconic get out, and I was just like, no.
So Jack said something to me in our Jack and I talk and hang out on the daily, and he said something to me. He said I can't remember exactly what you said, Jack, but you said you're tired of being singled out as the Xander defender because then you just feel ganged up on. So I'm going to try and stop doing that. But I just appreciate that there are advocates for different characters that are contentious one way or another. And like Josh with Kate, I think he brought up a bunch of perspectives there that it's like we don't always get the chance. But if anyone does not want me to pick on them as the advocate for said character, I'm fine with that. Just let me know. I don't ever want to put anyone on the spot. These are intended to be fun, enjoyable hangouts with other fans. That said,
always calling me to defend Kate.
Okay. I might be a Riley defender. So there you go. That's a much harder road to ride than defending Xander. Yeah. But I understand. Anyway, Liv, we were talking about I've Got You Under My Skin and the Prodigal. You weren't there for the first part, but you specifically wanted to say something about Dawn. So start wherever you want to.
Oh, no, I wasn't going to go too much on Dawn. I was just like, that line is iconic. That was my ringtone when I was younger. And I'm like, Kate's Get Out does not compare. I'm sorry. Like,
well, ringtones are intended to get your attention.
Yeah.
So they share that in common.
Yeah, so I'm definitely a Dawn advocate. I think she gets a lot of hate where it's not wanted, but we'll leave that for another time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts, Josh. That That helped me a lot. And also, yeah, it made me interested in Kate, which has literally never happened. Not once, my dude. So thank you.
Raphael says in chat, who's going to be the Warren defender? Warren and Parker. I had a Parker defender leave a comment once. He was honest with her. He didn't say anything that wasn't true. All right. And so I actually included a bit about that in the next video because of that one comment. But anyway, I'm sorry, Liv. I keep derailing.
There's a big difference between saying things that are true and then using truth to spin a web of manipulation.
Truth can be a lie.
Give me their full name and address. Okay, no, enough about that. This episode, the big thing that I really liked was that quote. That sometimes the price we end up paying for one bad choice
that line's powerful.
That I think I missed that line last time I watched it. It hit me like a ton of bricks this time. Because we talk a lot about choices being so important in the Buffyverse, and this was the first time where Angel sort of gave a good counter argument to being like, yeah, sure, it's his choice, but sometimes you make a choice that haunts you for the rest of your life, and it doesn't deserve to, it's not. Which I thought was really, really interesting, because it's true. There are some people who, you make one stupid decision and then you're dogged by this, I don't know, this trauma, this addiction, this something, this whatever, for the rest of your life.
I think that's why the word consequences to me is more fitting than punishment. Angel, he does use the word punishment, and that's from his perspective. But the butterfly effect may result in an earthquake, but does that make the earthquake the butterfly's fault? When examining issues of consequence and guilt and all of that, it's much more difficult to... And that's why I think the Bucky comparison that I included at the end of I've Got You Under My Skin is so interesting. All those things you did, you didn't have a choice. I know, but I did them. It's still a reality that he has to live with one way or another. Whether he was at fault, it's still his reality. It's still a part of his experience as a human being. And so that rings very true for me for Angel. It's powerful stuff. Powerful stuff.
Yeah. When I was watching this episode last night, I had a few drinks and I was like, I'm going to solve the soul canon. I'm going to watch these two and I'm going to nail it down. I'm going to have a definition.
We both have very similar drinking games, I see. Okay, how did you play?
Well, I played Drink When You Get Confused by the Soul Canon, and I blacked out pretty early. But I decided at the end of it, consciousness, in that it is, consciousness, people have like certain definitions for it, but then you ask a neuroscientist what it is, and they go, I don't know, fuck you. Because it's still kind of a mystery to all of us. It's one of the last frontiers in brain science. So I don't know. I really enjoyed all of the touchings on it in this episode and the last one, talking about, humanity, conscience, and fear, and how our same love will infect us. I can't remember the exact Dala quote. Boris will probably read me to the ground.
Which quote?
That same, hang on, what is it? What we once were informs all that we have become. Same love will infect our hearts. That Dala quote.
Oh yeah, and I mean, that's a way of phrasing the repetition that I tried to write about at the end of the episode, which is sort of these patterns. And an angel without a soul doesn't have the ability to break from the pattern. And then he gets it, and finally, after some time in Buffy's light, makes a choice that is contrary to his own self-interest, which of course he'd want to stay in Sunnydale and stay with Buffy. So yeah, it's good stuff.
I think Darla does have a role to play in Angelus's complete and utter rejection of human love as well, because she set up everything so that I don't know, so he was constantly chasing his father's affection, because we've seen other vampires that have romantic relationships and stuff as well. So it kind of made sense to me that like Darla and the person that she was very like cynical, and she was, you know, a sex worker, and she didn't have like a great view of love and God and all that stuff. So she probably would have taken that with her to the vamp world and shaped Angelus that way as well.
Well, Darla says specifically in the episode where she dies that she and Angel didn't love each other. Their relationship to me is an enabler. That's you know, as someone with, let's say, prone to vice and all of that, I have dated enablers before. It maybe wasn't necessarily romantic or passionate or a lot of love, but but it is addictive. And the two of them enabling each other is how I always read that relationship. That's the hook. It is almost one of as Josh was talking about, drugs and addiction. But I've said before that, I mean, to me, Drew and Spike prove that you know, love is not something that requires a soul. Adult love is something that requires a soul. To love, to be able to let someone go is an act of that requires a conscience. So yeah. Anyway, sorry, I keep tangentializing.
No, I appreciate the tangentializing. You make me sound smarter than I am. I would agree. I think, but even like Drew and Spike, they showed these levels of affection that Angelus and Darla were never comfortable with. I was going to say something else, and I can't remember. I wanted to say on the Angelus liking art thing, Liam never showed an interest in art per se, but he did apparently like money. Like he went after his dad for only having one servant, and he was talking about it as like a source of shame. And he liked to draw. But I think ultimately Angelus would have pursued fine things, like because of that. I don't know, like he's trying to prove something to his dad that he became a better person than him in like the societal hierarchy. So yeah, he would have learned about art and, you know, bought clothes and
he
know.
exceeds his father's social status at various points in their story. Amends, he's clearly at a rich and to-do party when he eats the maid. But so yeah, I could see that. I could see how that tracks.
Yeah. And also when he goes to Kate's dad's house and he's just saying, invite me in. He could have said so many other things. He could have said, come out here. He could have said, look behind you. He could have said fire. I don't know. So that.
Can I use your bathroom?
Yeah. He could. Yeah. He, instead of just constantly being like, invite me into your house, he could have been like, yo, turn around, or he's got a gun, or anything. I don't know. So that annoyed me, but other than that, I really liked it.
Yeah, it's a moment of panic for sure in that particular scene, which we don't see Angel prone to very often. So perhaps he was at a loss for words, but well, I think that's it. And I know we're 30 minutes over. I'm so sorry. But I was thinking maybe The Prodigal should have been a single episode discussion, because I figured that we were all going to have a lot to say about that one. Speaking of, 5x5 is going to have to be a single. 2 weeks from today, we're doing I'm super...
Eighth time, y'all.
Yeah. So the way we'll probably handle that is... as a single episode discussion, but we're watching the Faith 2-parter next time, and then we'll kind of just kind of go around and discuss them as though they were a single episode, because I think it tracks. And
this year's Girl and Who Are You?
Yes.
On the 25th, which is actually the 20th anniversary of 5x5, so it's kind of appropriate.
I haven't looked at how long those episode guides are, but you guys don't really need to worry about that.
Like 9 minutes for the first one, 13 minutes for the second one.
Yeah,
So
when we start getting into the longer ones, is when we might start doing single episode discussions. Like Restless will be a single episode discussion, Prodigal, so forth. But generally, I'm just going to start the stream with as much time as necessary for me to watch all of them solo, and then switch over and start with you guys right at 5 is always my ambition. But I think our discussions keep getting better. It's no surprise. The shows keep getting better and having and richer and all of that. So I really enjoy doing this with you guys, and I hope you guys feel like this is, especially now that we're all stuck at home, a good use of your time. I appreciate it. I feel like I'm back in English class. Well, thank you. Oh, and there was a comment in chat. Oh, when I said that thing about Parker Defender and then said the thing that the person said, I was not defending Parker. There were some very upset words in chat that were yelling about Parker. I agree with you. So just to be clear, Parker sucks. We're on the same page. All right. I appreciate it. And